All right, people. Welcome one and all to the hell's our name? The Nervous Men in a $4 Room podcast. We got with me we got Jonesy Wales. Damn it, I already screwed it up. Jonesy Wales in this little corner over here. We got a young Master Richard up here. All right, tell the people something about yourselves. Tell the people at home, Jones, who are you?
Just just an average Joe likes to play games and live life.
Oh, damn. Richard, tell the people at home, who are you?
Oh man, just a big weirdo, artist, illustrator. Love drawing monsters, creatures, reading books and comics. That's about it.
And he's a goddamn hunk. Now, before we get into the actual meaningful topics.
No, what about you? What a little bit about you?
Oh, nah, I'm just some random jabron. You don't gotta worry. Oh wait, no. I forgot to even mention who I am, huh?
Yeah.
Should I use my real name, Emiliano, or E-Dog as my podcast persona?
Street name.
It's
Up to you.
yeah. You can call me E-Dog or
E-Dog.
Emiliano. It's whatever. But I have a question for you guys before we get into the meaningful topics of the evening. Jones, we've talked about this in the past, but I don't think we've ever asked Jones or Richard, which is,
Yeah.
I'm sure all of us have gotten that talking to back in the high school days of you got to appreciate these moments. You're going to remember them for the rest of your lives. You're going to wish you could go back to high school. Have any of you felt that yet? Does that come way later? Or is it just me and Jones that feel like high school was just nothing meaningful?
I do think it was meaningful, and I think like the people and the friendships and things were really important. But I don't like long to be a teenager or anything like that. Like I look back on it and I think it was awesome and it was hilarious, and I just have like great memories of hanging with Jones or you or Sawyer, Whitecamp, whatever, just different people, whoever the crew was.
Hmm.
But I'm not like wishing I was still in that, not at all.
Same.
So yeah, it's coming later. We're gonna hit it. We're gonna be 45. We're gonna be like, ugh.
I remember. Well, it's also. I feel like we didn't do anything in high school. Like the people that always like reminisce about, oh, I wish I was in high school again, are always those dudes that are like the football players that want to be like the popular football dude again.
The ones that
Yeah,
peaked in
yeah.
high school.
I guess
Yeah.
that was us. We were always out there. We were just.
I definitely had some moments in high school. I mean, just probably a couple nights, that were like, oh, that was a cool experience, just hanging out in that group or something like that. But I'm definitely not feeling like, man, I wish it was like 10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
But maybe too early.
Well, there is one thing. I can't stay up as late as I could when I was a kid, and I wish I could. So the other night when we were on here till whatever, like 1:30 or something, and I don't know. By the time I took a shower, it was like 2 in the morning. I don't know. Do you guys remember what time it was?
It was
It
like
was about
1:30.
1. Yeah.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So by the time I took a shower and was like ready to crash and everything, dude, the next day I felt horrible. I felt like garbage. The next day was my dad's birthday, and we had like a cookout, like a family dinner and stuff. I felt like I was hungover. I've never been hungover before, so I don't drink, but I imagine this is what it feels like. I just felt like garbage.
Got
And
that Zoom hangover.
yeah, so I cannot do that. If I stay up like past 1:30, I feel like garbage the next day. But in like high school when I was like 14, 15, 16, like we could do whatever. Jones, remember that one time when we we were at the Bryant's house and we were there till like 5 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and then finally in the morning Mrs. Bryant was like, "All right, boys, you guys gotta go." And so we
Mhm.
drove down Central, we drove around the city, and then we ended up at Sawyer's house at like 6:30 in the morning or something. We're like, "Dude, can we just sleep in your house?" We just slept. We slept in his house.
Yeah, we just slept on his couches. And then we were watching like, I don't know, Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
I remember that. But yeah, see, that's the kind of stuff that I remember, like specific nights like that. Like it's very few of them, but it's not really a moment or a timeline that I want to go back to where I'm like, man, I wish I was 16 again, living at my
Hmm.
parents and, you
No.
know, just going through all these classes again. I don't really see that as like, oh, those were simpler times because it was a lot different. I had a lot less freedom, so I definitely don't want to be there again. I like the freedoms I have now, so
Same.
yeah.
I don't think I really did anything. Like I don't even have like what you guys were just talking about. Remember that night where we went to so and so's and this happened?
You've got a lot of experiences like with the Wheats and, just
That's true, but
the Gator Boys.
the thing is I don't really like remember anything that stands out. That was more of like just a time period of things happening. It's not like I could think back to something because everything that stands out is just me being like super slammed somewhere, and that's I don't know if that's the best memory to look like when I burned Andy's uncle's clothesline because I wanted to prove my strength when I got when I had the Four Locos.
Oh
Like
god.
like I don't know if that's like the good old days really for your boy.
Just fun nights. I mean, it's kind of how I see it, right? So,
Yeah, but and to me, like, I still have those, you know? So that's why I don't really look back on, because to me, like, one of those nights is when Emiliano was visiting from Japan and we cooked up that weird little hot dog crab, whatever the hell that thing was.
Oh, that
It
disgust.
was like
Yeah,
it was like Play-Doh, and we were
yeah.
crying, we were howling. It was so funny, like stuff like that. Just certain nights, things like that stick with you. But you still have those. So yeah, I don't know.
guess as long as you're still making memories somehow or, you know,
Yeah,
trying to make the best of your current situation, then yeah.
yeah.
All right then. I guess that answers my question. It's usually just something that me and Jones talk about, so I wasn't sure if Richard was just way cooler in high school or something. And
No, not at all. Are you kidding me? Dude, do you remember my teeth were different in high school? I used to be able to put a dime between my front teeth, and I don't have a gap between them anymore.
I don't
Lucky.
remember that at all.
You don't remember that? Dude,
No.
yeah. Swear to God.
Did it
Yeah.
just go away, or did you?
Yeah, it just went away. I never had braces or anything, man.
That's weird.
My teeth just kept shifting as I got older, I guess. I don't know.
Dude, my teeth are aching right now because my wisdom teeth are coming in.
Oh, crap.
So it's like I could feel like my mouth getting overly crowded, and it just like goes through my teeth, just pain. But it's only like $30 in Japan to get all four of them pulled out. But they got to give you a shot, man, and I just can't. Every time I get close to making like the appointment for the dentist, I just start having like nightmares of like getting shots and like the needle breaks in there, or someone's chasing me to give me a shot or something.
Wait. So, like, in Japan specifically, or like in general, you don't like injections, you don't like shots?
I don't like shots anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Ever.
So, like, getting blood drawn, any of that, like,
No.
you just don't like needles. Okay.
No. And I don't know why. I don't think anything's ever happened to me that would cause me to be like so afraid of needles.
Yeah.
Because like some people say, "Oh, I hate needles," but I really hate needles. Like I could fix my teeth, but I won't because I know I'm gonna get a shot. And that's the only thing. The pain, I don't care. It's just the shot that comes at the start of it.
I
So-
still bug out like when I get blood drawn, but I act like I just act like I'm completely cool. The person is always like, the technician in the lab is always like, "You doing okay?" And I'm always like, "Yeah, Yeah, it's fine. And I always like look away. I never look at it. I act
Yeah.
like it doesn't freak me out, but like getting blood taken out, I just think that's so not always just shots or injections, but I think getting blood taken out for some reason kind of freaks me out. I don't know.
Jones, you were gonna say something.
was gonna ask if over there is it only injections? They don't have like the sort of little gas masks to breathe and knock you out?
I don't. I thought the like anesthesia stuff, right? Where you just go to sleep and then you wake up like that kid in the YouTube
Yeah,
video.
that's true. That would be a shot.
Yeah. I mean, they have gas, but
Well,
I
there's a
mean,
few different ways. They could gas it up. They could give you an IV.
IV's still a shot though, huh? And then that one's right into the vein.
Yeah.
IV, like they slide a needle into your hand and it stays there. Like
Nah.
they tape it
That's
on
probably his.
and you have a little hose.
It's probably not any better for him.
If they had a pill, if you could just swallow something, then boom, dude, I'd have like Tom Cruise teeth right about now. But they ain't got no shots. If it's a shot, no thing. I'd rather die. That's my stand on the Rona too. Even if Bill Gates comes out with his voodoo vaccine,
His voodoo Kool-Aid.
I'd rather die than get the Rona vaccine.
Ain't no computers going in you.
They're trying to chip me.
They're trying to upgrade my softwares. But yeah. Well, I guess that relates to something you guys were bringing up of memories, of false memories. Because I don't know why I'm so afraid of needles, but there has to be something that happened at some point that I just don't remember, maybe?
I mean, it could be something as simple as just the way you got shots once at the doctor as a little kid, and that just left a bad taste in your mouth. You know, it doesn't even have to be like a real trauma or event that triggered it. Like maybe one time you just went to the doctor as a kid and you got a shot and you just kind of bugged out about it, and then it stuck with you. I don't know. It kind of just imprinted something mentally.
Maybe. Is there anything else like that you guys have? Like a similar thing that you just don't like? That is there a specific thing that caused it?
I don't think so.
Damn. Well, now everyone knows I'm the only wimp in this little group that's afraid of anything.
Honestly, the only thing I can think of is my dislike for octopus. I just don't like octopus, and I one memory of being at my house. My dad gave me a little chunk to eat, and at the time we had in the living room, and I just remember I hated the taste of it, and I spat it up on the felt of the pool table. I just remember that so vividly, and ever since then, anytime I think of octopus, or like if octopus is being served, I say nope, and I think exactly of that memory.
You spit out on the billiard table.
Yeah.
Damn.
But that's really it. I mean, I don't really have like anything that would be a sort of phobia, I guess.
Oh, I do big time. If we're just talking about fears and phobias, then yeah, definitely. Like pretty much any bugs. I'm terrified of any bug.
What?
Yeah, swear to God. It doesn't matter. Like roaches, spiders. If I see an ant crawling on my arm, I'll bug out. I'll freak and I'll like flick it, and I'll be like scratching myself for the next 15 minutes.
Damn.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. I think I got it from my mom because my mom is afraid of bugs. So maybe it was just like a conditioned behavior because I was like homeschooled. I spent a lot of time at home, spent a lot of time with my mom. So who knows? But yeah, man, bugs, that's big for me. They freak me out so much.
I'm afraid of black widows. Cause
well, you should be.
Well, it's because Black Widows and roaches. Because I've woken up in the middle of the night with both of them in my bed.
What?
Like when I was in Hoodier, I woke up because I felt something like tickling on my shoulder, and I like woke up, turned on the light, and there's a big old Black Widow on my shoulder, and I whoopah slapped it away, and it
Oh
crawled
my.
under my mattress somewhere, and I could never find it. Found it like years later when I was moving the stuff. I think to move to Tempe, there was a squished Black Widow under there. And then the roaches, I was like sleeping in there, and then I felt like something, almost like something bit me, and I woke up out of my sleep and I felt some stuff, and there were just two roaches just hanging out on my chest.
That's gross.
Are
So
you kidding me?
yeah, so roaches, Black Widows, they ain't for me.
Oh God.
See, I lived in the roach apartment. Remember that? I was the
That's true.
roach king.
Yeah,
And
Oh yeah, you're like your first year, huh?
yeah, in that like shitty little like first floor Tempe apartment. And I remember I would definitely feel stuff at night,
Hmm.
but like I just kind of accepted it. I don't know. I'm not like very fearful of them now. Like if I find one in the house, I'm just like, all right, kill it, get it out of here. That's it. Like, but I'm not like, oh my God, you
Did you
know?
know it's the only place you've ever lived where I never stayed over?
That was the only place?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that would be true, huh? Yeah.
hold
Well,
on, boys.
for
I gotta. You could still keep going.
like tap, like the or drain, I would plug them all up, shower, sink in the bathroom, sink in the kitchen.
Oh, I remember. I stayed over that apartment at least once, right? Because I stayed there when I went to Tokyo for the first time.
Yes, because yeah, you stayed with me so that we could drive there early in the morning.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that was when I learned you shouldn't go to Wingstop
Wingstop.
the night before a flight and order the hottest wings you could handle.
Well, because apparently you couldn't handle them.
Oh no, the flight to Japan, I was just I almost had to buy new pants at one of the little airport stores. It was bad. I remember like I felt it as soon as they tell you you can't get up to go to the bathroom. That's when I started getting the rumbles. It was from the flight from
my.
Phoenix to LA, and I was like, "Oh God, no!" But luckily, I the plane wasn't that full, so as soon as I got up, I went back there and just blasted.
Dude.
And then
Where?
again, like basically every connection until Seattle to Tokyo, I was just like running from bathroom to bathroom. It was an exciting start to that trip.
But then you were cleared out for once you actually were in Tokyo, right?
Yeah, that's true. All clean.
Yeah. Have all the shushy you want.
Yeah, and then blasted out again.
You make it sound like you're opening up the airlock or something, dude.
Dude, you know in movies when they open the airlock and the dude blasts out and they have all that it was basically that.
You remember that meteorite from Joe Dirt?
Who do you think made that meteorite?
Have you guys both seen Interstellar?
No.
The Matthew McConaughey movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the part where like Matt Damon gets aboard the station, or he's trying to get aboard the station. He takes the ship and he's trying to like dock it.
Yeah.
Do you remember how that ends?
And then that's exactly what it was like. It's
Yeah.
exactly what it was like. How much do you think I like a good buffer zone when I'm dropping bombs? How much do you think you got on a plane? I'm always wondering, because I can't hear anything else in a plane bathroom other than just the engines and stuff.
I think it'd be the same for everyone else. Planes are loud, man.
Yeah, I mean,
So that's probably the best place to be dropping bombs.
Probably.
nobody can hear it.
Yeah, that's true.
In space, no one can hear you in space.
Dude, I told you about the dude on my flight. I forget if it was to Phoenix or back to Japan. But the dude that went to the bathroom barefoot.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Dude, that's a growing
disgusting.
trend on flights. People taking off their shoes and their socks and just hanging out there with their feet in the aisle. And I've seen at least one dude get up and go to the bathroom barefoot and then walk back to his seat.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
That's so unsanitary.
It's goddamn.
Ugh.
And they wonder how Rona started.
The only thing I've seen is like a picture of someone on a flight that was just saying like, well, I guess this is the rest of my flight, and it was someone's like gross foot just popping through the side of their seat. Like
Ugh.
they had a window seat and they took a picture of like the window and the armrest on that side, and it was just a foot coming out from behind.
Wait, was it like on the old Southwest planes where you'd have the seats that are facing each other in the back of the plane? Because
No.
how person's leg would be getting.
No, it was just someone that was in the seat behind them that just decided to stick their foot in that cranny.
Behind. I was like, what do you mean? Okay, I got you.
Oh, I see. So like it'd be like a foot
Yeah,
coming up.
yeah. There you go.
Yeah, it's like you're laying your arm and then there's like a foot coming out on the side here, right?
Okay.
From
Yeah,
the armrest.
I was thinking of a foot coming from the front. So
Basically someone that just has their leg up high. Anyway,
it's gross.
gross.
I like flying
Very
though.
gross.
I like flying though. If I was real, you know.
I like it, but I kind of did freak out last time I flew. I've never freaked out before, but coming back from the Spangle concert, there was really bad turbulence. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
There was turbulence. So it was just like a lot of shaking and stuff. And I guess I wasn't really freaking out, but it was like making me feel kind of dizzy or nauseous, and I'm terrified of throwing up. Like that's another phobia for me.
Mhm.
So I was like, dude, I do not want to throw up.
Yeah, I don't
But
like
it was
turbulence. There was turbulence on the flight back in December from like where'd I go from LA to Hawaii? Like the entire flight was just them just shaking up and down. They couldn't give us any food. It was just and then it was that scary one where like it feels like you go up and then you just drop back down.
Mhm.
It would just do that over and over again. And I thought it was like you would think the pilots would come on and be like, "Oh, don't worry about it, guys. Don't worry about it." But it took them like it was like halfway through the flight, and they're like, we got some turbulence, and there's planes above us, planes below us. There's not a whole lot we can do here, so it's gonna be a bumpy ride to Hawaii, Honolulu." And then they just go. It's like, thanks for the comfort, jerks. Everyone thinks they're gonna die, and that's all you got for us.
They probably thought the same too.
I always wonder, how often do you think you're gonna die on a plane and they just don't let you know? Like we're just that close. And then-
Probably way more often than you care to know.
That's true. That's true. Let's just not
Well,
think
with
about
your, I was gonna say, with your experience working at the airport, I mean,
it.
there's a lot of planes that are in a very, what is it, suspicious condition, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Well, just the amount of planes that back into those are all on the ground though. Like there was a ton of planes that backed into each other, so their tails would like crash into each other. Before they
What?
took off, there was a couple planes where their engines just exploded into flames. It was just shooting flame out the back. And the people inside the plane surprisingly didn't know. You could just see them in the window, just sitting there like waiting for their flight to take off, and the engine's on fire. the tires exploded when a plane landed once, and it just sort of wobbled back into the gate.
What?
So there's some weird stuff that makes you worry. Yes, but don't travel, people. Travel. Go where you want to go.
Follow your dreams.
Yeah.
Bill
But getting
Ward, Black Sabbath, eventually like refused to fly. So
because
later
of
in the
fear?
wait, what's that?
Because they were afraid to fly?
Yeah, he had like a fear of flying, so then he just started going from show to show, just in a Winnebago, whatever, just something you like a rabbit hole you went down, and then 15, 25 minutes later you're like, why am I looking at this? And then you put it down and you go away.
Karens. Internet Karens. I was telling Jones about this the other day. That Instagram has just been like flooding me with videos of Karen freakout videos,
Oh Lord.
Kevin freakouts, and then now it's starting to show me the Nick freakout videos.
What are Nick freakout videos?
Little skater kids, like little white kids that want to be like badass. Like, you can't tell us what to do, MFer. We're skating here.
And you keep watching them, so it's gonna keep putting them on your explore page.
Yeah, that's the thing. But it kind of clears it up for public use, because I was telling Jones too that my Instagram's just full of like anime titties, so I can never open up my browser or explore page because it's just anime titties everywhere. So I could only watch them in little corners and be like, what? I don't know what's going on. I didn't search
What
this,
is wrong with you? Why are you watching that stuff, fool?
dude. Ain't nothing wrong with a little anime titty now and then. But that's a good segue into one of the topics we wanted to talk about, which is the virtual age of relationships.
Oof.
The reason I was bringing it up was because of Jippin, where I don't know if you got a chance to read the little article that I sent, but basically there's a big, like a large amount of the population that's turning to like virtual waifu type relationships over real people. And I've just, what do you think of that? What is the future in that?
Well, the most interesting thing that I got out of the article was that it talked about like children born out of wedlock and how in the US, like that's huge. Like there's are you kidding me? Like everybody like gets their girlfriend pregnant or something and they have a kid, like
It's a pastime, really.
Yeah, like 76% of the population of children are like born out of wedlock, but that article said like 2.2% are born
compared to Britain, which is 47%.
in Japan's, are you kidding me? 2%? And so it was talking about how there, like, essentially no one has kids outside of marriage. Like, not no one. It's 2.2%, but it's so small. It's such a small percentage.
I think with that, it's also important to say, though, that pretty much abortions here are just something you can do.
Oh, okay. So that's a fact also. Yeah. But so that ties into the population decrease because there aren't as many people in relationships or marriages having kids because there's this weird alternative culture in the youth of like these dudes who sit in arcades for 9 hours a day, or if they're not in an arcade for 9 hours a day, they're into the waifu stuff online, whatever. I don't know. That's odd.
No, there was like business dudes, like when I go to the arcade, just dudes, tons of them, even some chicks, which was extra weird, which is like just normal looking dudes, normal looking chicks at the arcade with no interaction. They're just focused on like the arcade games. Wow. And they even have arcade games that are like virtual waifus. It's like a dating sim arcade game. There's a game where you can pretend to be a train conductor, and you have this virtual stacked Tiggo bitty waifu assistant that stands next to you and tells you how great you're doing with your train driving. But I don't know why there's just no interest, because it's like there's dudes, there's ladies, but they just lost it for whatever reason.
Yeah, I find that odd. I mean, when I first heard about waifus and stuff, and you see a bunch of memes about that, I honestly thought it was kind of like a joke. It's just like, because I've got some friends too that like are actually legitimately into anime, and they'll like name off these like waifu names, but I always thought it was just that like they're doing that to say that in a funny context, in a funny environment, like, oh, you don't like so and so? I
Hmm.
I think she's better than this one or whatever. I I don't know. I always thought that was just kind of a joke, but I never really thought that people actually fell in love with
Hmm.
certain characters or memes or waifus or
Oh,
Yeah.
you
it's
know.
real, baby.
Yeah, and that's the most surprising part to me that I've learned recently, but um
I think it's similar or comparable to like Tumblr culture. You know, just like weird Tumblr fandoms of like people who are obsessed with TV show characters,
Mm.
mm,
whether it's like Supernatural or some other TV show, I don't know, but just like people who obsess over TV show characters.
Mm.
yeah.
I think it's similar to that, except with this, it's like a cartoon character that doesn't even belong to. Um, it's not even like a licensed character from a TV show or cartoon. It's like just
They're waifuing black holes, and Earth is a waifu. A tiggled bittied Earth waifu is a new thing too.
what?
Oh, she's stacked. She's fine. I've heard. I've heard. I wouldn't know. No, but
Yeah,
my
me
thing
too.
was similar to Jones, where like I can get why people would be into waifus because like you could draw them in whatever proportion guys find or do chicks find like most attractive. So like it would make sense to be like, oh, I'm a jack it vigorously or something. That makes sense to me. I just don't get why people like fall in love with them. They're not real. I don't make the connection between that. I can imagine actually having like feelings for something.
And that's what it is. Like they have like an emotional connection.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Oh,
like another example I told Jones a while ago is I don't know if you've seen it, but on YouTube and even Twitch, there's like a growing thing of VTubers and V streamers where it's just like an animated little waifu. And there was one of them where like there was an issue with the software that produces the anime chick and it stopped working and it showed this like fat dude that's actually the chick using a voice changer and the little AI things and he's just sitting
no
there
way.
all trolled out and then he's like, "Oh." And then the waifu comes back up. But I would think like at that point people would be like, "Oh, I'm out of here, man. This is a dude. I don't want none of that." But people stuck around and they asked the guys because it was an article and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm not in love with that guy. I'm in love with Waifu Chan, the actual animated character." So they didn't care that it was a dude behind it. They
Ugh.
consider the little character as an actual person.
It's funny that that kind of leads into I mean this could segue into two different topics here, but the virtual side of things like that with people sort of pretending they take on this personality in a virtual world. But one thing I was gonna say, I mean, and we can go either way, but I think I could see how like now lately with more technology advancements, it's easier to like fall in love with a waifu because
Hmm.
if you suddenly put on a VR rig and you're there, you maybe have a more of an emotional attachment or whatever, you can connect
Yeah.
on another level with this character if it's being simulated right in front of you. But another thing is it just reminds me of a Black Mirror episode
Oh
where
god.
there's it's called Striking Vipers. So it's like
Hmm.
these two guys from, they were like childhood friends and they grew up and whatnot.
Oh,
Just
you told
playing,
me about this one. Yeah.
The one with
yeah,
Anthony Mackie, right?
yeah, yeah. So these two guys that were always playing this Mortal Kombat style game, they grew up and they suddenly started playing this Mortal Kombat that's now VR friendly. So they're put into this real world and they, for a while they're messing around, just kind of fighting, and then eventually they start kind of just like banging each other in this world.
Naturally.
But they like one is like a lady character and the other one's a guy, and they're doing that, but then they kind of just start questioning themselves in the real world. Like, is this really how I feel towards you or towards your character?
Hmm.
So I don't know. That's kind of interesting how some people, even though they know on the other side, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna stay with it.
Hmm.
But I think the whole thing of virtual reality, either way, is making this a lot easier. You know, people have easier access to this kind of technology, so virtual relationships are probably going to become more common now.
Hmm.
And also with VR, I mean, it incorporates more of your senses. You know, it's not just looking at a picture on a computer screen.
Yeah.
There is more involvement, and I think that's part of why people can form this stronger attachment to it.
Hmm.
Well, not only that, but well, yeah, I mean, to add on to the more senses part of this, there are now like full VR sex suits that I've seen where it's
Ugh.
like you get certain vibrations in
Really? What?
either like
What's that called?
what website specifically,
Yeah. How
so you know
much
what,
money?
just so you know which ones to avoid, right?
Yeah. I don't want to accidentally search.
Um, yeah, it's this whole thing. And I think the one I saw was just a prototype, but you can just Google that. It looks really wacky, but it's like a whole thing where the you've
What would
got
you
the
do with
dong
your
attachment.
dangus? Is this just like a fleshlight?
It it basically goes into this fleshlight type apparatus.
Oh dear God.
Yeah, I mean it's a whole setup and specifically for that. There is no hiding it. Um, so the whole is there, but yeah, I mean people are getting more involved and they're trying to find to feel more things around
Hmm.
their entire body. It's becoming a thing.
Oh, that's gross.
I mean, yeah, that's disgusting. I don't. Ugh.
Liana was like, ugh.
Opening
Later.
up Amazon off screen.
Yeah, yeah.
But I guess the question that we didn't really answer is why? Like, why did it get to that point where people are choosing digital waifus? Because in Japan, I think it's just that people are just so busy with everything else that they have to do.
I was about to say that. I think it's a combination of convenience and complacency. I think it's convenient for people. You don't have to risk anything. It's not challenging. You don't
Hmm.
It's not like meeting someone and saying, "Do you want to go out sometime?" You know, because you're putting yourself on the line doing that. You know, your heart starts beating. It feels like a risky situation. We
Hmm.
know it's not. It's not like you're gonna get eaten by an alligator or something. Like nothing bad is gonna happen to you, right? But it is still that situation to your brain. It's like a risk, right? You get scared, like talking to someone or asking a girl, "Hey, you want to go for a drink sometime?" Whatever.
You like Roblox?
You like Roblox? What's your Club Penguin username?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you ask your waifu, do you like Roblox? She's gonna say yes every time.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that is part of it. There's no risk. It's not really challenging. There's no risk of embarrassing yourself. You're not really gonna. You're not putting yourself out there, so you're not gonna feel bad if something doesn't work. It's convenient.
Hmm. I also think here in Japan, maybe in the U.S. too, but more so, at least I notice, is like money is super important here. Like the article even mentions it. Like people will wait for a husband that has like the financial standing to be in a relationship. It's not like someone you really want to be with. There's plenty of people here that are married because the person has a good job and they wanted to be a housewife or something like that.
And that's pretty common. It's almost like traditional, right? For girls to stay with their parents
Yeah.
until they meet a man.
But they're supposed to do it before they turn 30, and I guess the issue now is that it's going beyond 30,
Oh, wow.
which I used to work with a teacher. She was 35, still lived with her parents, and from what she was saying, it's basically her options are done at that point. Like if you're not married by 30, you're going to live with your parents, and then maybe you'll get some dude that has no other options, and that's kind of where you go for.
You just shack up.
Yeah, it's just
Dang.
Wow.
but
What that's a rough culture.
yeah, because even this waifu thing also leads into the what the hell are they called? Hikimoris or something? Shut-ins basically. Just a
Mhm.
bunch of youth that just shut themselves in their rooms and they never leave. They just play games all day. Their parents pay for them. It's they seriously don't do anything else. They're like afraid to talk to people. And like,
I think
hmm?
finish your thought.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think it's because of like Japan's standards. Because I don't think it's that big of an issue in the U.S. There's not that many. It's not as widespread. But here, I think it's just because what you're supposed to be is like so well defined. Like you're gonna go to this school, you're gonna go to this high school, you're gonna graduate to get into this college, you're gonna work
Mhm.
at
Like
this
the structure
office.
for
Yeah.
everything.
So if you're like, well, maybe I wanna be an artist or do something slightly different than that plan, you're basically an outcast. So then it's really easy for people to just get into that shut in where like, oh, I don't belong with any group here.
Wow.
So I think that could also lead into why people feel like, oh, I can't connect with real people. I'm going to make a virtual person that understands me.
So there's something else that kind of instigates that disconnect or that feeling, and then it kind of pushes them further.
I think so. I'm not sure, but that's what it seems like to me.
Mhm.
Because,
I was gonna,
well, Jones, you had something to say.
I was just gonna say that I feel like here in the United States, there is at least a subset of people that have that. Maybe it's not as widespread as it would be in Japan, but you still have the shut-ins. You still
Mm,
have the socially awkward people that, and it's the same drivers. It's convenience and complacency,
mm,
like Richard said. So, um, yeah, a lot of it just has to do with that sort of culture of growing up in a very technology focused world where people just want to be around that constantly and don't want to put in the effort to make any sort of, IRL achievements. So it's a lot better than going to a bar. It's a lot better than going to some sort of environment where you're going to be around like-minded people that where you can potentially find someone that may be compatible with you.
mm,
Um, but a lot of people are also just kind of like their life just gets in the way, a lot of job stuff. I mean, I don't know. It could be a number of things, but convenience may be the biggest factor now that I think about it.
mm,
But I still think it has to do with that culture of like just being around technology so much. And I'm not condemning it
mm,
by any means. I'm certainly a technology person myself, but I just think it's much easier to take this path. And it could also do with I don't even know if like millennial culture would be a part of this, where it's
mm,
like, I'm the typical stereotype and tropes that you hear is just like I'm depressed, I'm socially awkward, I'm quirky, I'm random.
mm,
It's just
Yeah.
I don't belong in X environment, whatever. So this is the identity that I am assuming for myself, and it just pushes that sort of idea further for them.
mm.
I don't know. It's a mix of things here, but really it can all be like it could all come down to complacency and convenience. I think that's a great way to put it.
I think a large part of it here is a conditioned behavior from an earlier age. And on the topic of technology, you were saying like that you said like I don't really know if you can say like if it's bad, but I think you can say it's bad. I think we can say it is too much. Something that's kind of interesting is a lot of. I'm not gonna like name drop and list off celebrities or anything, but just like in podcasts I've listened to with some celebrities, I've heard multiple say like, "Oh yeah, I got rid of a smartphone. Like I just have a flip phone because then I don't have apps, I don't have social media, and I can't sit on a phone." Like they realized it was completely consuming everything, and they saw the way other people were acting, and they were like, "Oh, we really need to step back from this." And Chris Hardwick from the Nerdist, or what I guess is now ID10T podcast, he kind of changed the branding of all that stuff. But he made an interesting point one time. He said, "I wonder if in the future, however many decades from now, people are going to look back at this era and be like, oh man, you guys were like walking around with those devices constantly. Like you had that thing up against your head all the time. Like you guys were looking at that. How did you not realize like how horrible that was? Like studies were showing that it caused depression and this and this and this. Why did you guys keep using that thing?" And, there's no way of knowing until we get there. There's no way of knowing until decades and decades from now when we have the results. But I do wonder, if it is too much already, how quickly we're going towards that Wall-E scenario of disconnect, right? Remember, like they just sit in these chairs and they don't talk to the people around them, and they just watch the screen, and they don't have connection with other people.
Yeah.
Which ties right back into what we're saying with the waifus, and I think people don't understand the danger of the technology. They don't understand how consuming it is. And so they use it as a tool, and then they use it for leisure, and they use it for fun, and then they use it when they're bored, and then they use it whenever. And it just keeps escalating. And then it gets to the point where it is now, where kids just sit on tablets all day and they don't do things. They watch YouTube videos of other people doing things, and it becomes an entirely voyeuristic pursuit or voyeuristic culture, whether it is games or relationships, whatever. It just becomes, well, instead of actually going out and doing this thing, which I could potentially not be good at or fail or embarrass myself, or I just don't have the time and energy and willpower or drive to do it, I could just do it on the screen. I could just do it within the comfort of my own home and not have to really get into it. So I don't know.
I also noticed something weird to me, like when I would work in the junior high schools, especially high school, where there'd be like a lot of the students would compare like their followers on Twitter or Instagram to actual like friends, and you could just tell that like it affected them like mentally, like their whole like level of depression or anything, because if they had a lot of friends followers on YouTube or on Instagram, whatever social media, they would be like, oh, I have a lot of friends. And I'm thinking, these people aren't your friends. They're just rando people. Even if they're your classmates, I don't think they're your friends. They're just people following you. So if they post something and something good happens, oh, they're happy. If they lose a follower, if just any little negative thing happens on Instagram, on a social media thing, they like take it personally. And it's like, oh, I lost friends, which really just means I lost followers. So like there's this weird connection between like people you've never met, friends, like these virtual connections you have with strangers that are somehow like important to people now. And it seems to like transfer over into like the real world of their connections with their actual friends.
But it's false. It's just a means it's like a menial form of gratification. It's this tiny little thing,
Yeah.
but they let it consume their thoughts. They let it consume, their actual like mental state, their happiness, and it it becomes like a driving force. It becomes, oh, I need to post a thing that people are going to like so that I get this number of likes, and then it kind of, validates them in some way, but it's the thing. They shouldn't be looking for that validation. They should be, I don't know, I guess I can't say what people should or shouldn't be doing, but that's not what you need. You don't need to have this number on a screen in order to feel fulfilled.
Yeah. But I was also going to say that it seems to transfer over into their physical friends because they're so quick to just like, boom, you're not my friend anymore. Screw you.
Exactly. Why this is dangerous for kids.
Yeah. Because like the friends that I have, like you guys, it's like there's no comparison between you guys and some followers on Instagram, social media.
Yeah,
I don't
not
care
at all.
about those people. But it's not like if you I'm not gonna not be your friend for some tiny little, oh, you didn't buy me a soda when you bought a soda for Rick. Screw you. I'm unfollowing you. We ain't friends no more. But it's like little things like that nowadays that I notice the kids do are just like they don't have any real friends, it doesn't seem like. Like that the concept of what a friend is has like changed.
It's all for show, or it's
Yeah.
all tit tat, and it's all, it's all follow for follow, like for like.
Yeah. Jones?
I think all of that is probably bad to be exposed to at an early age. I think that does sort of it kind of just like lights a fire under an addictive personality almost, or it kind of molds one
Hmm.
for young kids.
Narcissism.
Yeah, it can definitely lead there. I mean, it's not a great stepping stone, but I'm still not on the side of like just being like phones are bad,
Hmm.
because I I love technology. I mean, that's kind of where I work too, but I I see the benefits of it, but at the same time, I have my own self-control. I don't try to consume myself with that. Um, and I'm hoping, other people our age or around our age can do the same, but I don't know. I don't know how much of this comes down to how early you're exposed to this or how much of an addictive personality you may have. Um, it's kind of hard just to say a lot about that, but
Well, I don't think the
I
phones themselves or the technology are bad. It's people not knowing to like cut that off, that there's a limit.
right.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's not the technology itself, it's what it's being used for. I think cell phones and smartphones, I think that's incredible. But them being used for Twitter, I think is an abomination. I think Twitter is like just trash. I think that's just like the scum. Like that's the stupid thing on the planet. I can't get behind Twitter at all. So it's that once it goes down a certain avenue, it's not that the phone itself is this evil thing. No, they're fantastic, but when we use it for these other things, that's when it becomes like, what are we really doing here? Like my students, I'll have like sixth graders, eighth graders, whatever, like doing TikTok dances in class or something. And I'll be like, knock it off. Hey, come on, let's focus here. And I told them, like, you could look up anything. You have the sum of all of humanity's knowledge in your pocket at any given time. And you're just like flinging your arms around, filming yourself doing these dances. And they were like, oh.
That it's like a completely different topic, but it was something that we talked about a little bit before, I think with Jones, of just how I think it's going to suck for kids in the future how these stupid things that they're doing are permanent. Like imagine if all the stupid stuff that we said in like grade school and high school was permanent somewhere. Like, I'm so glad that social media wasn't a thing back then.
We'd all be getting canceled right now.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
something you say when you're a kid, when you're an idiot.
Yeah.
I just, I don't know, the whole social media thing, like, it's starting too young. Like, I have like 7, 8-year-old cousins that have iPhones already and Instagram pages. And you even see it with like parents to their kids, like, oh, he loves his tablet. It's like, he's a little baby. Like, teach him something instead of just sitting him there in front of a tablet. It's
Yeah.
more just convenience for parents, too.
It is. Once again, it comes back to convenience, and that's what it is for parents. Like, I see kids constantly, like at the grocery store, anywhere, it doesn't matter, with a phone in their hand, like just because it shuts the kid up.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
instead of just teaching the kid to like be mindful or reverent, and I don't, not even like reverence, like you're in a holy place, like you're in a church, like
Yeah.
you don't behave a certain way, like when you're in the movie theater, when you're in the grocery store, when you're at Great Clips getting your hair cut. Like, you, instead of teaching their kids like about mindfulness and presence and like common courtesy, like, hey, there's other people here, we can't be yelling, instead of teaching that kind of stuff, like they just give them the phone, like give them the phone and shut them up, and the damn
Yeah.
kids watching like a TV show with the volume blasted in the middle of a credit union or something, whatever.
Speaking of kids, another question that I thought up, completely different topic. But what are your thoughts on not being married? Do you think you could just be single for your entire life?
I actually don't know if I'm allowed to answer this question because of my job. I don't know if I'm allowed to.
Oh,
If this video is going to go up on the internet, I don't know if I can answer this.
what?
hmm
Not whether like marriage is wrong, just
I guess I'm not really saying anything incriminating. So say the question. What was the question one more time?
is it okay to just not be married?
Oh
Basically, is
yeah,
the
100%. Yeah,
I would
that
agree.
yeah.
absolutely.
No, I'm just wondering because it's just seeing so many people that we know. Like hell, they were married 5 years ago, and it seems like there's like still that push for people. You gotta be married. You gotta have kids.
Oh, okay.
What if you don't wanna? And if you don't wanna, like, is there any negative to that?
No, no, it's your choice.
Yeah, in certain communities, I think there's a stigma like for the kids thing, right? Because personally, I don't want kids. Um, Never wanted them, and with parents, that's always tough because they always want to see more grandkids and whatnot. But like,
Mm.
I've seen it in other areas where um, these soon-to-be mommies, right? The whole mommy culture, they're just so involved in that, and they just think that's like everyone needs to have a kid, like it's for everyone, and your life is going to become 100% better once you have a kid. But
Mm.
I I also think that's also kind of disrespectful. Like there's some people that just can't have kids even though they want them. That's a whole separate conversation.
Yeah.
Um, the but I have seen that before. I have seen people sort of be prejudiced against people that don't want kids. Like it's a weird thing. It's probably not as weird now. Like it's becoming more and more normalized. You either
Mm.
want kids, you don't, whatever. That's great. You have your own opinion. You live your own life. But I still see that where it's like people saying like, you know, people that don't want kids, like, what the hell are you thinking?
Yeah,
Just kind of that sort of thought, that sort of mentality. I've seen that floating around.
some sort of stigma still.
Yeah,
I personally, I'm a teacher. I teach K through 8 kids. I love kids. I love working with kids.
Hmm.
Grew up in a house where my mom ran an at-home daycare. I just grew up with tons of kids all the time. I love kids, but I don't ever want to come home to one. I don't want to have kids. I also just know like very seriously, I would not be a good parent. I would not be a good father. Um, I can be, as an educator, a good role model, you know, talking with kids, working with kids. But like being a parent, I would not do that. To be completely honest, I can just straight up say like I'm too self-involved. I cannot, the way that I function, the just personality that I have, the way that I approach my art, the way that I obsess over things, the way that I hyper focus on things, um, I just don't have that kind of brain. I would not be able to hang with it, and so I know myself well enough to know it's not for me. It's not going to happen.
I'm more so of like, I just know I don't want him at this moment, and it could be possibly ever, because of the fact, similar to yours, I guess, is that I just have too many things that I want to do, and it would seem irresponsible or just, I don't know, wrong to just have a kid because I feel like I need to or I have to, and then give up on all these other things. And I feel like that could build some sort of resentment, because you get a lot of those parents that are like, "Oh, you took my youth.
Oh
I,
yeah.
I
Well, for
gave
me,
up this."
it's not exactly that. It's not like I want these things for myself and having a kid is going to ruin that or ruin these opportunities. It's more so just that I know the way I function as a person, I would not be good for a
Oh,
kid. It would not be a good environment. Like, I'm a very distant person, I'm a very solitary person. I would not be uh, I would not be very warm, you know. I just wouldn't. I'm not a very affectionate person. Just wouldn't be a good deal for that kid, you know.
hmm. Jonesy, you look like you're boiling with hate for children. Tell me about
No,
little
I just
bastard snot bubbles spreading
yeah,
Rona everywhere they go.
little disease bags. No, I just don't like kids. I mean, you know, if people want to have them, that's great. I'm not gonna project that stigma onto people that have the opposite opinion of my own, but I just don't want them. I don't think I would be a good parent either. I I also can be pretty solitary when when I need to be or when I want to be. So I would also be pretty distant, but also I don't think raising a kid in this environment, and I don't even mean like the world, but just my current situation. Like I barely have time for myself sometimes. I don't know how I'd make time for another human being. So that sort of responsibility just isn't for me. But you know, kudos to the people that do have that and go through that. But that's just not for me.
We've had a similar conversation before, Jones. One time at your house, we were talking about. Um, I guess I won't get into a whole bunch of family stuff, but just one of my older siblings being a recovering addict
Hmm.
and things like that. It just sucks that you can have kids do your absolute best, and then after a while, they reach an age where they can just make their own decisions and completely destroy their lives
Hmm.
and other people's and do horrible things. And I don't know, that's just really scary. That sucks to like have this little person that you raised and they became, you know, an adult, and then you're just like, I don't know, not like a guilt, not like what did I bring into this world, you know, not like that, but it's just I'm not trying to say that like that person becomes a burden, you know, because that sounds real messed up, but just saying there's always going to be that. Not that you have to hold yourself responsible, but after a while, that becomes another person,
Yeah.
and you got to deal with that and the choices that they make, and that terrifies me.
Yeah.
That after a while, there's nothing you can do. They become someone else, something else. They become their own person, and you can't do anything after that.
You can only whip out the belt for so long.
Get the Switch.
Yeah. I would be afraid of that, and also just like a kid that there's just something wrong with your kid, like some sort of disease that the kid is born with,
Hmm.
or even just with me of like, oh, you have a kid, and then oh, I got some terminal illness. Like, there's just too much worries that go along with that. Too many people that get affected.
Hmm.
I'd break down like a Ford. Am I right, boys?
Do you ever?
It's
Oh, we're gonna change gears now. Man, this is gonna be a real doom and gloom show. Okay, do you ever just like? You brought up the illness thing, so this is on you, E-Dog.
Yeah.
Do you ever? I don't want to say like fantasize, but almost like daydream about like if you died, and like what would happen.
Dude, that's what I thought for like 5 years. Did you forget those years where I thought I was dying? Or wait, was Richard aware of that? Or was
No.
oh,
Oh,
I guess not.
oops. Well, now you know, and now YouTube will know. But yeah, there was like those from what I was like 20, 22, something like that, for about 5 years until this past April. I thought I was knocking on the corpse's door, basically, because some doctor told me that I had heart failure, like some serious form of heart failure. So basically, for like pretty much those 5 years, wasn't imagining. I just assumed it could happen at any moment. Because the dude was like, "Oh, 3 or 5 years. That's what you got." Misdiagnosis. Turns out nothing's wrong with me. But
Dear God.
yeah,
That's a
So-
severe misdiagnosis.
yeah. So I didn't imagine it, but I lived it. It was interesting.
Oh my gosh, dude. So that's why you moved to Japan.
Yeah, a lot of the decisions within those 5 years were made on the assumption that I wouldn't have to really think of the consequences of them. So like, it got me to places. Certain things were achieved, which is a positive.
Yeah.
But once I found out that like, oh, I could technically die at any moment, but still, I don't. There's just a lot of time now. Basically, things have consequences that I have to worry about later, which is a difficult shift.
Yeah, man, you got to go back to McDonald's and clock out.
Cash in that check. I probably own half McDonald's by now.
There's gonna be cash checks laying all over the place.
No, but I do also just imagine. I wonder what would happen.
Yeah, because I think about I sometimes I don't know why, but sometimes I just rap in my own head about like terminal illness and wonder like I probably wouldn't get treatment.
Hmm.
I'd just let it go. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, something like cancer, I'd probably just be like, because the treatment for it is like, you die in a hospital bed. I don't see how that's any better than just living it out.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that like people will just go into financial ruin just for like the hope of
Yeah. Or for more time.
to live. Yeah, or just for more time. Yeah, it's kind of strange. Maybe we're assholes, and maybe that's something you can never fully understand unless you're in that position. But to me, it sounds insane. It doesn't make sense that like you do that to your family and you just plunge into this horrible financial state just to have like 9 to 14 more months of life. I don't know. It seems like a raw deal to me.
Well, that's what I did when I had the mistaken diagnosis, because they gave me a medication in the beginning, but it made me feel horrible. So I was just like, the medication slows it down, it doesn't cure it. So I was just like, whatever. I'm just
So you
gonna.
just didn't take.
No, I stopped taking it and then just figured whenever it was time, it was time.
That's what's up.
So, like, I feel like if that happened again, I'd probably do the same thing. Hopefully not legitimately.
We a bunch of stoic mofugs.
Jonesy, how you want to die?
I don't know if I could answer that question, but if something did come up, I mean, if it was early enough, I'd probably want to take care of it.
Take it out back.
Yeah, take it out back, beat it up some. Um, no, because I've seen that happen. I mean, with some people that I know, like my ex-girlfriend, for example, had lymph node cancer.
Mm.
Was caught super early on. They just cut into her throat and like took some stuff out. She's good now, right?
Yeah.
But and same thing with like some of the stuff in my family. I mean, there's like a history of like colon cancer, and some people have just gotten stuff checked, and yeah, it was gonna turn cancerous, but luckily it was early enough, so it got caught. Didn't get to that point. I don't really know how
No,
I
I
would
mean
act
like
or
you're
react if
busted
it
up
got
for
to
months. You've been
sort of.
feeling sick for like 8 months. You don't know what's wrong. You finally get to the right specialist, the right doctor. You've already seen like 3 people, and they're like, "Dude, you're at stage 4. Like you're really. This should have been found earlier." You know what I'm like that kind of situation. Like I wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so at that point, I I probably wouldn't be motivated to go too deep into that either, unfortunately. I mean, I might also sound like an asshole, but um in the main driver for that is financials. I mean, I wouldn't want to have this massive debt that could potentially be transferred to someone else and then they're just left with it, or just have to constantly worry about, am I gonna get this paid off? Can I even afford to live? Like I'm living right now, but can I afford to live? Right? So
If I'm being real,
probably
real, it would
be
depend
real
on
with me,
the
son.
prior Christmas. Did they get me Christmas gifts? My family's getting a dead dog. Did they leave me out of the wish list? Debt, baby. I want to live. We're dragging this thing out. Another 10 months, another 12 months, $100,000. That's my feeling on it.
It all comes down to that last Christmas.
Yep. It all comes down to Christmas.
Did they give
Everything in
me
life.
gift cards for Robux?
Hmm. Socks in my stocking. I'm fighting, baby. I'm a fighter. Make a wish, here I come.
Oh God.
But maybe that's enough talk about death. Another topic that I wanted to talk about, Richard also wanted to talk about. Jones, I'm sure you've seen at least on the news of all the statues that they're wanting to remove, like the Confederate statues. Someone took off Columbus's head. They were taking off movies that have some sort of racial. What was the movie thing actually, Rich? I didn't get to see that one very much.
Well, like Gone with the Wind being removed from HBO.
All right, back from our our swole break. We were all making some quick gains. Nothing else happened. But as we were saying before I took this little break of Gone with the Wind, the Japanese news reported as Netflix, but maybe it was just HBO. But I've never seen that movie, so why did they remove it?
Gone with the Wind?
Yeah.
Oh, because they have a woman in the house who is a servant.
Hmm.
Her name's Mammy. And I can't remember well enough. I've only seen the movie once. I saw Gone with the Wind when I was a kid, and I can't remember if she's actually a slave. I don't think she is. It's way later. It's not during slave. No, it's not during that time period. It's much later. But so she is like a house servant, and I think the woman who played her. Hopefully, I'm correct in this. I think she was actually the first woman to win an Academy Award. And it was like a really big deal too, because she's a black woman. And it's absurd to me that they're pulling this stuff, because that right there is film history. Like that's a success for black culture, having her win, but they're taking away these movies and it's just nonsensical. Like, what, we're just gonna pretend racism never happened? We're not allowed to depict it in movies anymore? What the hell does that?
That's the
What kind of
thing. I feel
mess, man?
like with the statues too, not just the movies, like they're supposed to be there. I think the education behind them can be changed, but we shouldn't remove them.
Yeah.
Like they're there as a symbol that these things happened. It'd be
Mhm.
like the same reason for why we don't destroy the Auschwitz, the
Yeah, like
Holocaust
Auschwitz.
camps.
Yeah, what are they gonna bulldoze that next? You know?
But Jonesy, I think me and Richard have our thoughts, but what are you thinking?
Um, I don't know. I'm kind of in between, but I guess what I've seen this attributed to is like specifically with Confederate statues lately. A lot of people are suddenly finding out that these statues exist and then are suddenly taking pride in like the Confederacy and backing that up and saying that that's history and that's heritage and all that stuff. But I think they're taking pride in it for the wrong reasons.
Hmm.
I don't think a lot of these people are actually going to be history buffs or really care about any other historical items in the area, as long, because it doesn't conveniently fit their ideals. But
Hmm.
Hmm.
um, that's the part that bugs me, that interest that people take in those monuments.
For the wrong
I mean,
reason.
Yeah.
yeah, for the wrong reason. I think, I mean, if it's something that I, hearing it this way, if it's something that's up there to show, this happened and this shouldn't happen again, or just as a reminder of like, this was our history,
Yeah.
fine.
Hmm.
That's totally fine. But I it's just being taken to a different dimension now with that, to a different plane of just like, no, this is what I need to be proud of. I'm
Yeah.
proud that this happened. I
But
I
that's people's own like feelings. You can't really control that. That would be
Oh yeah.
something where we gotta be like a change in education to let people know
Yeah.
who these people actually are. But the answer isn't remove the statues.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah. No,
Like,
so
Well,
yeah,
like,
I
no, now looking back in history, like Columbus was not a cool cat, and what
yeah,
he did was not great. But that doesn't mean we should erase it from history and destroy every painting and statue of him. To me, it's the same thing as like people who find out an artist or a musician like did something messed up and
mm,
then just like throws away all of their books or their records or whatever it is that they created. To me, that's idiotic. Like, if a person does something bad, it doesn't nullify the things that they created or nullify their contributions, right?
mm,
Like, pretty much every single artist you've ever loved has probably done something dastardly in
yeah,
their life. And you can't just say, well, forget that dude. That's it. He's done. That dude's canceled. We're tearing down his statues. We're throwing out his albums. We're burning his books.
yeah,
We're not gonna. Are you kidding me, dude? James Brown beat women like notoriously, and people still love his music, right?
yeah.
So to me, you need to be able to have that separation. You should be able to separate the person from the event because you need to be able to look at it objectively. You need
Yeah.
to be able to say, this is what happened, and this is why we can't let it repeat, right? Especially when it comes to issues of race. You need to be able to say, this is what they did to people in the past,
Mm.
and we cannot let that happen again.
It also seems dangerous. I would say it's dangerous to just start accepting that we're gonna start deleting stuff that we don't like.
Yeah, because it sets a precedent. It's
Yeah,
basically like Me Too or cancel culture, and we're trying to apply it to the past. Like, we're trying
yeah.
to cancel Benjamin Franklin, or, you know, like we're trying to apply it to the past, and that's not, what's that gonna do?
Because you could, like right now in this situation, it's like, oh, we want to get rid of the Robert E. Lee Yeah, maybe you could say Robert E. Lee wasn't a good guy. He was a Confederate. It's something we agree on right now.
Yeah,
You could easily switch that over. Oh, we're going to delete that part of history where we said you have freedom of speech, freedom of press. That never happened either.
it sets a precedent, and that becomes a larger issue.
Yeah.
So as far as destroying property and statues, I mean, I'm against that. I don't like the violence behind that, but to sort of play two sides here, right? So a statue, I guess the reason it was erected,
Mm.
would that be the original intent to honor that person or to show this happened here? Because
I think the original intent was to honor these people, especially in these in what were Confederate states in the original Southern. The way they used to split them up originally, they were probably monuments to these men. They were monuments to these people. And maybe the solution could be take it down and put it in a museum or something where there could be this discourse and it doesn't need to be a public work.
that's what I was getting at. Why can't this still be preserved in a historical setting in a museum somewhere else? Because, inversely, what if there was like a statue of Trump that was put up,
Hmm.
right? Obviously, it would be to like honor him if there was a statue made of him.
Hmm.
So, I mean, how would people handle that? Would that be okay to just have? Or should that be placed somewhere else? Or should it just be put in like some roundabout in Washington, D.C.? You just have this giant statue
Yeah.
of Trump, right? Like, I think so the intent of these monuments is sort of to glorify, to honor, to put this person in a good light if you're making a statue out of them. Or,
Hmm.
I mean, and I know that there's other statues that show suffering and pain and the difficult times in history, but that's also to show like this is where we're at now. So I get that too, but I probably maybe the best solution here is, since I'm always like the one on the fence for everything, the compromise. Don't just take it down, don't just vandalize it, don't just destroy it, relocate it.
I
Put
would
it
say
somewhere.
not even relocate it. Like the intent was to make those guys seem great, but the history is that people thought that they were great at the time. The answer isn't to move it, they're historically there. The answer is to say, like, yeah, these people thought he was great, but these people also thought in a terrible thing about slavery that we could own people. It's like an opportunity to educate people based on where it is. It's not move it somewhere else. Because I think if you move it somewhere else, it could easily become something like cancel culture, where you move it to some place where no one's going to hear about it. And then it
Mm.
develops its own little echo chamber of,
Oh,
oh, they
okay.
moved it here because these guys don't like our ideas. And then you just get some extremist thought that builds up in that spot.
Yeah, I mean that's a slippery slope, because then at some point you're not going to be able to have a statue of anything or a
Yeah.
monument to anything. But I, I certainly agree with you. I mean, erasing history should not be a thing. I mean, we need to know our history so that it doesn't repeat itself. But yeah, I don't know. I guess with the current specific to the statue stuff and the monument stuff, it's odd to me. That's much different than like Auschwitz, which is an actual place. That's where stuff happened. But to have something created that honored someone else, I don't know. I guess it's kind of on the fence there still.
Yeah, I would feel like I'm not a fan of Robert E. Lee, of the stuff he did, but I feel like there's no denying that he was actually a great leader. He led like half the country in a civil war. Like he has maybe some sort of right to have a statue. It's just, I feel it should be more education. Tell people why you don't like the guy, what was wrong with the guy. Not really destroying thing like Genghis Khan. If you get a statue, sure, he's not a good guy. He murdered a bunch of folks, but we got to know about him. He didn't just not exist.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think specifically with the statue stuff that's already erasing history because there's still plenty of it. Once you start getting into like textbooks and you start
Yeah.
taking things out of museums and whatnot, that's dangerous. That
Yeah.
I wouldn't be for that, but
That actually I took a there's on Facebook. I think I took a screenshot of the what's the Daily Show's dude now?
Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah. He said this a little thing. He said the people still saying, but if you take down the statues, how will people learn their history? He says, read a book, MFer. And he says, the bubonic plague was a major event in history, but we don't go around putting up statues of rats. Which I don't know. Like, you can't say, get rid of the statue, read a book. I feel it's a lot easier to misrepresent history in a book than it is, like, in a statue. Something that's there that we can see.
Oh, okay.
Like, I think there's
But
more value in keeping that statue there and, like, having tour guides or something, some sort of plaque that says what the dude actually was, than having a book that we could just fill with bias, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's real
So-
value in the statues.
that's fair.
And also, well, because they are from that time.
Yeah.
The textbooks are not.
Yeah. It'd be different if we decided today, hey, let's build a statue of Robert E. Lee.
Yeah.
He was a grand old guy. That's different than something that already existed that was built during that time. I would think. And then, yeah, like Richard was saying, I think art is like a completely different thing where I would say the same. You don't just get rid of someone's creation because they did something bad.
Yeah, I mean, like, didn't Da Vinci dig up dead bodies and do really weird stuff? And, you know, everybody loves his art.
Did he? I didn't know about that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why his anatomy drawings and his medical documentation, that's why it's so good, because he was a grave robber. He would steal bodies, and he would take off the skin and examine the muscular structure and everything. He was intense.
That's
You
nasty.
dog's getting the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah. No, but it's I would think of that not like Da Vinci, but like one of my favorite Japanese writers is I think his name Yukio Mishima. Like,
The
I
guy
love
who
his books.
The guy who killed himself?
Yeah. Ultra nationalist, hated America, hated the occupation.
Oh yeah.
But his books, like, if you read them, they paint like an amazing picture of what Japan was like during his time.
Dude,
So,
there's
like,
a
his
book of his that I cannot even find. Like, this stuff's not even in print, or they don't make it available in
Yeah.
the States. I don't know.
a lot of them aren't translated. They're still in
Oh,
original
okay.
Japanese. But dudes like that, where yeah, he's a nationalist, someone that I don't agree with his ideas, but his books have value, the things he created.
Mhm.
And I feel like it would be the same basically for Gone with the Wind.
Cosby.
Cosby.
Cosby. So what? His albums aren't funny anymore?
Well, that one's tough for me because I never thought Cosby was funny. So,
Oh man, I used to listen to comedy records of Cosby with my dad growing up.
Yeah, I've got a couple of them.
oh really?
To Russell, my brother with whom I've slept, is a hilarious album. I'm pretty sure that's the name of it. I can't remember. But he's got great stories. But anyway, yes, that's another example of, someone who people can't separate the person from the craft. And so now it's, burn all of his CDs, get rid of his comedy, forget his show, whatever.
Cancel culture. That's kind of the answer to everything these days.
Cancel culture. Yeah, it's like this fake apologetic I was gonna call it like a jerk off, I guess.
Mm.
Well, I'll just call it that. It's so stupid. Like people busting up Mark Wahlberg
Mm.
for like, I don't know, he's getting busted for like stuff he said when he was a teenager. And he was like, dude, look, man, I was in gangs and stuff when I was a kid. Like before I was even DJ Marky Mark, like I was a terrible kid. I did really punk stuff. Like how old is he now? What is he, like 58, 56? Why are people digging this stuff up? Who gives a shit? Let the guy make Transformers movies, do whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah. Well, that's like a big thing too. Is like they're all for canceling, but you can never come back. Like Cosby, he's doing his time. He's getting his punishment. You
Mhm.
can't really compare what Wahlberg did, people in similar situations, Louis C.K., things that they did on the same level. Like they apologize, they go through the whole process of being sorry, getting canceled for some period of time, and then it's like it follows you forever. There's no way back out of that hole once you get there.
Yeah. Yeah, Louis trying to come back.
Yeah. I think that dude
Uh,
should. His stuff was weird, but
yeah.
it wasn't like on the level of Cosby or Weinstein. What is that other
Yeah,
dude?
because Cosby and Weinstein like definitely messed people up.
Dude,
Yeah.
there's a in Weinstein's. Wait, there's so many more industry stories coming out now. If you were in the film industry from the 60s to 90s, you were doing deeds to get jobs, to get this agent to sign you for this. There are so many people who were doing that stuff, and
Mm.
Weinstein is like just the one who got busted. It's
Yeah.
crazy. That's disgusting. He's a maniac.
That's Hollywood. That's the fame.
That's Hollywood,
I'm
baby.
assuming.
We're gonna make you a star.
But yeah, I don't know. I really don't know a lot about the Weinstein dude. But at least for Louis, like his stuff was just like creepy dude stuff, right? He was like, "Hey
Well,
man, can I jack off while I talk to you on the phone?" And they were like, "I guess." And then he did it, which is weird, but
Yeah, but that's the thing. He like I don't know. It goes back to this is all a consent thing. I mean,
mm,
I think he mentioned like Sarah Silverman, like he'd call up Sarah Silverman and want to like just beat off on a phone call.
yeah,
And
yeah.
she
she's talked about it.
She
yeah,
talked
Yeah.
and
about how it's like a regular thing, and I was like,
she was just like, "Yeah, go ahead."
mm,
You know? That's it. All right, great. I mean, what that's something that two people are doing. All right. I I don't know, like was there anything really
there was
wrong
never
committed
like
there? I
him
don't know.
jumping into a room with some people in there, and he's like, ah,
Yeah, swinging it around. It was none
Yeah.
of
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
But
not that I'm promoting or
Yeah,
or
we're all
condoning
cancelled out
these
because we're
weird
Louis.
acts here, but like
yeah,
that's something they decided to do. Okay, whatever. That's none of my business.
there just has to be a difference. Like everything is like on the same level. It seems like.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. No matter what it is, like you could have like yelled at somebody, uh, or like blown off some college kid that asked you for an autograph in 2002, and they'll treat you the same as like Cosby level.
Yeah.
No, you're a horrible human being. Look at this video of him in 2002 pushing this kid away who asked for an autograph. Or whatever stuff like that. Like, yeah, they keep it all on the same level. Like, there's no distinction between what's really, distinction between like severity of the act, whatever the act is,
Yeah.
whatever's been perpetrated.
I feel like that also goes back to social media though, of trends. Like people just they don't actually feel that way. They don't actually want the
Well,
person to get canceled.
that,
It's just other
I was
people do.
saying, yeah, that's what I was saying about like the fake apologetic movement. Like, they don't really care about the person apologizing. They don't really care about a resolution to whatever the issue was or the whatever was perpetrated. They don't really care. They just want the attention of calling out this person.
Yeah.
That's it. They just want to jump on the train of calling someone out.
I feel like it. I'm gonna get canceled, but I feel like a lot of that is what's going on with the protests right now of just people jumping on the train.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh man, you know what? What you had just said a second ago reminded me of Henry Rollins. Um, Henry Rollins like will not like he won't give people hugs or anything. Like if you meet him at a show, like he used to, like put his arm around you if he'd take a picture or give you a hug, shake your hand, whatever. He will not do anything anymore because he says, I don't want some person, guy or girl, I don't want some person coming up in 8 years and saying he did this to me when all I did was put my arm around them for a picture or hug them at a meet and greet, and then they're going to turn around and try to say that I did something to them. And so now he won't even touch another person. He'll be like, if you want to take a picture with me, like just stand next to me and that's it. And like I'll sign your book for you, but we're not gonna shake hands. We're not gonna do whatever. Like he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna be a part of this. Like the way people are acting and kind of pulling things up from the past and blowing everything out of proportion. Or
I feel like that plays into their hands though, because then you're doing exactly what they want.
But he's saying like, don't give them the opportunity.
I feel like it would be better to just not apologize for it. Just like
me too. I'm not
speak
saying
out against it.
Yeah.
Because that's gonna suck. You can't hang out with like your fans or anything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like just stop being a part of all the BS where like people are apologizing for shaking hands, like just ridiculous stuff like that.
That's a big thing. Why are we tolerating this? Why are we tolerating this?
Jonesy, you're looking like a crock pot. Give me those ideas.
Right now, I'm just listening.
Yeah. No, there was a. Oh, damn it. That was related to something else. Oh, it was something that it's slightly related to this. I was thinking more of like I know someone because it relates to just intent, sort of. I know someone who was like, if you misspeak, like if you say something and that person takes it a certain way, they don't think that people should have the right to like clarify what you actually meant.
Oh yeah.
Like they basically think if you say something, it's set in stone. That's it.
Mm-hmm. They take it and run, and that's it. It goes to print.
And they say that that should be the standard. Like that there shouldn't be the opportunity to clarify things. And my thing is like in most cases, I don't think I say things deliberately to where I feel like I would need to apologize for it. Like I say stupid things, but they're meant to be stupid. Like in most cases, I would be like, "Oh, well, it was meant to be a joke. It meant this." I wouldn't apologize and say, "Sorry, it offended you."
That's
like, what? Why is that my thing?
It was a joke right there. That's why it makes no sense when you see like Kevin Hart, Bill Burr, all of these people getting slammed for stuff that they say on stage. Guess what? It was comedy.
Yeah.
It was a joke. You can rip on whatever situation you want when you get up on that stage. That's why you listen to that person, because you know they're going to say outrageous stuff.
Yeah.
So why are you getting mad at them when they say outrageous stuff?
And even when it's not a joke, like just of all the words we can say, of how quickly our minds are going, of the subconscious things that we don't even know are happening, of course you're going to say something that sounds weird. It's not what you mean. You should have the chance to be like, oh, brains, they do stuff. This is what I actually meant to say. This was the real meaning behind it.
Yeah, the opportunity to clarify.
Yeah. Right, this little bastard in the corner is always saying stuff to me, hurting my feelings. But he's a good man, so I know. I know Jones don't mean it.
I try not to.
I try not to mean it, but sometimes I do.
You just never know when. when it's real and when it's not.
Ain't that the truth? Somebody write that down. Get it tattooed on your left shoulder blade.
You never know when it's real and when it's not. It's sort of
Maybe I'm
related. I was wondering, what did you mean by, Richard? One of your ideas for something we could talk about was humor in dark situations, or
Oh, humor at inappropriate times,
Hmm.
humor in dark situations. Yeah, I guess it does tie into that. Humor has always been a way to approach things that can be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So why do we get mad at these people for like saying something, like saying it was out of line or it was offensive or whatever, when that's what it's there for?
Hmm.
Like, I don't, maybe not 9 out of 10 times, but a majority of the time, if you are joking around, like you are making light of something, you are
Hmm.
making fun of something. You're using it as I don't know, a way to detract from the seriousness of something. You know,
Hmm.
you're taking the piss out of it, and that's great. That's like laughing at a funeral, you know?
Hmm.
It's like it's helping you feel better. It's you dealing with the grief. It's you remembering like fun things about this person. So I just think that's really interesting. The way that humor is used, the way humor can sometimes be used in quote unquote inappropriate places or inappropriate times.
Hmm.
I just thought it was an interesting subject, so that's why I put it out there.
But do you think it matters, like, if I corpse up in the next few moments and you guys are at my sick ass funeral, like, I feel like if you guys are making jokes, like, yeah, that would be something I'd want. I feel like it'd be strange if just someone that didn't know me started making jokes, like someone not
Oh,
really involved in it.
yeah. Someone who wasn't part of the crew.
Yeah. So like I could see in some situations maybe where humor could be weird.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. And you can hurt people's feelings, and you can say things that you thought were out. So yeah, there's definitely room for that. There can always be, I don't know, like something is misunderstood, or maybe you really said something that wasn't funny, and
Yeah.
um, you should have thought about it first. But it's one of those things where I don't know, you don't really know until you put it out there
Yeah.
sometimes.
Jonesy?
What can I really add to this? Um, I
Don't
mean,
be a joke.
Yeah. Be funny.
no, I'm certainly guilty of it. I feel like I did that probably last week in our call when I was talking about not getting enough sleep and whatnot,
Mm.
just making a terrible joke out of that. But I I don't know, it's just for me it's just the intent of making people laugh at that time, but I'm also just gauging my audience. Like I'm trying to be as appropriate as I can be.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Gauging the audience is huge.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of the only time I'll really like go out of my way for that, but that's not something I really like to make public or something that I try to like inject in every conversation. I mean, dark humor is kind of a weird thing, and you just have to know who's gonna who's gonna be able to get it or not, and it's not always gonna work. But
Yeah,
I
like
guess
last week I said I was ready to fall asleep. I said I was so damn tired I was gonna sleep like a Cosby victim, you know? Like remember so stuff like that. Like, I'm not gonna be telling a joke like that at work. But with
Yeah.
you
yeah,
guys, I can say that, right?
right,
So knowing
yeah,
your audience, knowing the place for the joke.
Yeah.
yeah. Because I mean, at least with you two, I understand that you guys would understand that it's not it's not trying to actually
Bring you
state a
down.
fact or yeah, bring it down or state some sort of fact. I'm just it's just cracking a joke. I mean, like how a lot of comedians do it, they're just taking a stab at this topic and bringing some laughter out of it
Yeah.
from whomever they can get that from, right? But
Mm.
it's yeah, that's kind of what I try to do, but it it sometimes fails and it sometimes works, but
Do you
Mm.
joke around in the workplace? Do you like? Do you smack somebody? Do you tell jokes at work? Do you mess around with coworkers or your boss or like people, or
Play
not
a little
really? You're
slap
pretty straight.
ass.
no, no, I don't actually.
But we don't know that like you're a funny or goofy guy. Like you're pretty straight laced at work.
For the most part, yeah, I'll be goofy and stuff, but like definitely toned down to the environment. It's the same thing. It's just gauging the audience and like, this would not be appropriate here. So
Okay.
versus there, whatever. But I don't know. I still try to bring humor to wherever I'm at, but to different levels, I suppose.
Hmm.
I just don't want to. I don't because another thing too is if you just suddenly start trying to force humor too, it just becomes annoying. It's obnoxious.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
then
You
you're not.
gotta be that dude.
Yeah, you're not
Everything's
an
a zinger.
occasionally funny guy. You're just the always annoying guy. So
Always leave him wanting more.
yeah, I'm not trying to go for like a full-on Michael Scott thing here where I'm trying to make everyone super uncomfortable.
I actually struggle with that when I started working at this last job that I recently left, got fired from, was was that like people I would talk to, I'm so used to talking to like Jones, Rick, Hedda, like people that I've known for years, that I could say something like super stupid or sound like really serious, and you guys know that it's just nonsense. But I'd forgotten that other people don't know that. So I'll make a joke that sounds like really just like a fact. And they'll take it that way and they'll be like concerned or something. So I was thinking that I'm probably terrible at judging the audience just because my audience is so restricted to you guys.
Yeah, it really depends, I guess, the varieties that you come across, like the different groups, because especially like with me, I've been exposed to a bunch of different friends now from work, from other friends, from Amber, things like that. So it, I don't know, you just kind of get to learn how certain people are after some time, and that's kind of where I've just learned to not necessarily change my behavior, but
To
just
be a poser.
not, not even that. Not even that. I wouldn't want to change my entire personality, but I just don't.
Why
Oh, okay, never mind. Yeah,
not?
I am no longer Jones.
Your buddy Love.
Yeah, yeah. I suddenly just turn into Buddy Love sometimes and just let it rip.
All right, we're having too much fun here. I have a question for you that's going to bring us all back down.
Oh, sweet.
It's one of my suggestions was for the possibility of a new global conflict, basically a third world war. But my real question was, like within that, is how do you think, like you personally, how would you handle there being some major like world war going on? Because we really haven't had that in our lifetime. Because I'm reading what is it? It's a book about the occupation of Japan, embracing defeat, and there's some stuff in there that just sounds like wild. I can't imagine that being real life. Like one of the big issues during the occupation at the start was starvation, and it got to the point where the government was basically telling people to supplement their diets, they had to eat peanut shells, acorns, and sawdust. And I was just like imagining, like, I can't imagine actually living through that. That must be insane. There were people walking in the streets that would just die because they hadn't eaten. Like, just people you'd see walking and they just drop and then they're dead. And I was thinking, just what do you think that would be like? Can we actually handle that? If something like that were to happen, like next week, tomorrow.
So I've been kind of thinking about something similar lately, especially just because the whole Confederate thing, that topic, the Confederacy was brought up. It just made me kind of sidetrack in my own mind and think of, like, during like World War One, during the Civil War, during the American Revolution, how did non-soldiers, non-participants of the war act? How did they behave? Did they just stay home and like things were kind of okay there? Or like was it mainly in like the battlegrounds that stuff was going really wrong? I understand that like a lot of people were impacted financially in every single event, but like uh, and it just kind of made me think, if something like that happened here, like if there was like a new civil war all of a sudden here,
Hmm.
how would I act? I don't know. I probably wouldn't be able to do much, honestly. I wouldn't be the one stepping out into the battlefield and trying to claim my honor. I
Yeah.
I would probably just try and separate myself as much as I could from that, in the sense of staying out of danger.
Hmm.
Um, as much as I could. I mean, I think that the goal there would be survive, survive, survive. So,
Well, I assume basing it, a civil war in the U.S. would be different because there were people that weren't involved in the Civil War that weren't fighting, that were affected because the battlefields kind of reached them, and you'd have your
mhm,
town basically destroyed. People come and murder you or something.
yeah,
So, like, Civil War in this day and age, I don't think you could escape it unless you went out into the sticks where there's just not going to be any
Yeah.
fighting going on to claim that sort of piece of land.
right.
But in World War II, it didn't really affect like the American people. Like, you're not gonna get bombed or anything. It's more like an economic thing where you couldn't buy luxury items. You were donating money to different bonds and funds to sort of just keep the war going. So, like, I guess those would be two different things. How would you react to like a local domestic conflict, and then how would you react to something that's a global conflict, but similar to World War II, where it's somewhere else?
I probably wouldn't change very much. It would be like what's going on right now with the COVID. Like if it were
Mm,
just a global, if it was like World War III,
mm,
as long as like I wasn't drafted, if I wasn't
yeah,
serving, like I wouldn't. I don't. Maybe that sounds ridiculous, but
mm,
it probably would not affect me very much. I would just keep living like my day to day life and just be like, well, this blows,
yeah,
whatever. But I don't really know if it would change the way I behave.
mm,
But if it were local, if it were happening in the streets where I live, I would probably be freaked out, and I wouldn't be able to. I mean, we're not talking like Civil War times where people have the what's the name of the knife that's on the end of the rifle? Does it
bayonet.
start with
Uh,
a bayonet? That's it. Yeah, I mean, it's not like people are getting shivved and
Yeah,
bayoneted, and you know, like it would just be people in the streets with automatic guns, and it would just be insane.
yeah,
And I would never be able to hang with that. I would probably be killed like in a week.
yeah. I think realistically, if I was in the U.S., we were all still in Arizona. We wouldn't go out in some memorable way that's gonna go down in the books.
Oh
oh
no.
yeah,
We
no,
we'd
not
be
at
the
all.
guys that get shot in the back just walking down the street or something like that.
Or
But
through a window or whatever,
yeah,
it's just
I'm at
I
Sprite buying gummy worms, and I just get blasted.
I feel like with either situation, I'd be really paranoid. I mean, even if it was a bigger scale world conflict, I'd still be paranoid. Like, what if just all of a sudden, some other country decides to attack a random part of wherever I'm living at, and
Mm.
there's some conflict there. But I don't feel like I would have a very honorable death or anything memorable. It'd just be like if I'm trying to like escape to survive, meaning just driving out of town, going somewhere a little bit more remote, and I don't make it,
Mm.
that's probably how I'm gonna go. But if I
Yeah.
make it, then I don't know. I don't know what would happen there. Just try to keep going, I guess. But I'm not here to like look like some badass survivalist. If I'm not, if I'm not gunned down, I'm still gonna be running away somewhere.
Yeah.
So
So, did you mean for our answers to be like ground level? What would you be doing on a day-to-day basis? Or did you more so mean in the event of a third world war, large scale? Like, would we even support it? Would we even champion the United States and support the United States in that? What exactly
No,
were you
just
thinking?
what would you do in like your day-to-day life? Like I'm wondering if you've ever thought about it because I wonder if people
No.
think about that anymore.
No, not at all. And I think that is interesting because we're babies. There's no threat to us. There
Yeah.
has always been something before. There has always been this outside force uniting everyone, uniting in the United States, uniting Americans in a singular cause. It's the Germans, it's
Mm.
the Russians, it's whatever. There has always been this thing. And now we don't have that. We don't have an oppressor. We don't have this driving force. We don't have this thing that
Mm.
is, sitting on our chest. And I think that's not that we should have like some giant enemy or something
Yeah.
that we're terrified of all the time, but we don't have that now. And I wonder if that contributes to the division that we have in the United States.
That's something I was thinking about too, where I feel like people are so behind the rioting and stuff that's going on because they don't have any experience with the real conflict. They don't know how dangerous and how quickly
We
that can
really,
escalate.
we have not really struggled as a nation. Yes, people can point to 9/11,
Yeah.
but and I don't mean to downplay 9/11, but a singular terrorist attack, it did change us as a nation. It changed our mindset. It changed the way we think about daily life and security and travel and all of these different things. But it did not create this long lasting unity in the
Mm.
country. It did for a while. I don't know if you remember, but like in like 2001, 2002, 2003, for a while after that, people acted different.
Yeah.
Like if you stumbled in a grocery store or something, like someone would ask you if you were okay. Like people looked out for each other a lot more, um, but it didn't last long.
Mm.
We don't have this thing sitting on our chest, like forcing people to be unified right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's necessary, but we don't have it, and things are crazy.
Yeah, my question was more just because like reading about the stuff that happened and like trying to imagine how I would react. Like the Tokyo. Like can you imagine just sleeping in your bed at night and then just a bunch of fire bombs drop on your house and half the city's gone? Like it's just crazy to know that that's happened and that it like for whatever reason things like that have happened. A bunch of people have died, but it's not on anyone's mind. It's like as if that can't happen again,
Yeah.
and no one's really prepared to know what would we do if it does happen again.
yeah, I've considered the situation, like I said, but I don't have an actual game plan.
Mm.
I'm not some prepper that's just urging for like people to break out
Yeah.
in all out war
John
for me
Goodman.
to finally
Yeah.
for me to finally act. So
Have you guys seen Prisoners?
no.
The one with Wolverine and
Yes.
Nightcrawler?
It's a what is his name? Villanueva. It was his first English language film.
Hmm.
Jake Gyllenhaal, Paul
Oh yeah,
Dano,
Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah, I've seen it.
Hugh Jackman. You have? Okay, yes. Remember Hugh Jackman is like a doomsday World
Yeah.
War III predator. He's got that basement with all the stuff in it. He's ready.
Waiting for the day. They were ready, guys. They knew that the riots were coming. They were prepared. Where are you, Jones? Huh? Huh? Richard? Huh?
Just sitting in an office.
I was sitting in my art studio.
Ready to scurry away like a rat.
Are those? Is it still as bad? I haven't seen the news like with the riots. Because I
Locally
don't know
here-
if we're gonna have World War III, but we have some sort of conflict going on.
I mean, here in Arizona, no.
Hmm.
A lot of the stuff just kind of died down.
We are in the nation for COVID now, though. We like opened up way too quick, and now our cases like spiked above the other states.
Yes. Yeah, we're getting like 1,000 cases per day now.
Yeah, Arizona's national news for COVID now.
Yeah. But
Sorry, I don't know if we were saying where we are. I don't know if we were supposed to say that in the show. So sorry I said that, but now
People find your Instagram or basically anything else on the internet. They know where you are.
oh, it doesn't say where I live there.
No,
either way, I
stuff
mean,
like that, people could figure it out pretty easily. It's like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, but generally, in this state, it's just as far as like protests and everything, I think they're still happening, but with
yeah,
when
we'll have
when the
walks downtown Phoenix. There's a lot, but we haven't had any issues.
Yeah, and especially with the curfews, once they were put in place, my understanding was that a lot of people just obeyed that respectfully, and like around the time, 8 p.m. hit, they just went home. But I don't think that's going to stop people from like going out there and marching and, having their walks.
It's too damn hot here. People don't want to be out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was beneficial for us to be out at night, but
9 today. Oh dear God.
yeah, but in other places, I mean, there's some stuff going on. I think the NYPD recently had some sort of like briefing where it was just a bunch of officers from the force, and they were just basically saying like, we're tired of being portrayed this way in the media and whatnot. So
still related to the protest, but something else that we were talking about in our little voice chat before. Have you looked in any more to the defund or abolish the police movement?
Yes, and it doesn't seem practical. I don't know. It just seems like reinstating a new form of policing people, but it would have the same issue. We need to change the way that we screen people before they become law enforcement officers. That's what we need to do. We don't just need to like disband the police and make a new force so we don't have these assholes anymore. Like, you're still going to get people who are of that mindset, people who are attracted to positions of authority. I don't know.
Before you go on, I was gonna say your answer to that is actually my sneaky. What I actually wanted to know was that I misunderstood what defund the police meant, and I think it's because there's so many ideas on what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were talking about it before, I was like, "Oh, that's stupid. Defund the police, get rid of the police." And there is a group that thinks that we should just get rid of the whole police. But I think at the core of it, it's more about not spending 50% of a city's budget on the police. Which
I was like,
I was like, "Oh, that makes sense. Let's you could put it into different community services and things like that. So I was like,
It's
oh,
about
Yeah.
the budget.
yeah. But
Yeah.
then there is like a lot of things that you see where there's people saying that the movement is about getting rid of the police and instating some new form of, I don't know, law enforcement.
Yeah.
So I think it's just
I-
crazy, like how many different ideas are going around.
Which again is a lack of unity and
Yeah.
makes it more difficult for there to be any real change.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's harder to get ideas pushed through, but I the the idea of just taking away the police force to put in something new, I mean, what you're gonna replace them with what essentially would be police at that
Yeah.
point. So
Yeah.
they're still gonna be police. So I think some of those ideas are a bit of a stretch. A lot of people are they have these very like grandiose schemes of how things should work, but they don't really have a very good grip on reality and how things actually work. So a lot of
Yeah.
it, like Richard said, wouldn't be very practical. But to decrease the budget, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot that's missing here in education or I don't know, any sort of other public infrastructure, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We touched on this a little bit last time we talked to each other. You can get slapped around in the streets as much as you want. And I don't mean that in a good or a bad way. I'm not trying to shit on people who are going out and protesting or whatever. You can go and get slapped around in the streets as much as you want and slap around other people. But if you really want the stuff to change, you need to be voting.
Yeah.
Right.
That was another thing I saw because one of my friends on Instagram was they're basically all for the riots and they're promoting all the things that have changed because I guess LA took away some 100,000 some substantial amount from the police funding. And they were saying like, see what we accomplished with this this movement, this rioting. And one, I don't like the idea that they're pushing that we did it through violence. Like we shouldn't be praising that.
Yeah.
But I also, although I like the idea of defunding the police, I don't like that it was done without like anyone's consent to it, anyone's voting. It was just sort of, oh, there was someone, we need to defund, so let's take away this much to appease these people.
Yeah.
Like that.
So there was no real policy behind it. It was
Yeah.
a knee-jerk reaction.
And now there's like another video I saw today of a bunch of cops rallying against the sudden loss of funding for them. So now you're going to get a bunch of pissed off police. You're going to have more
Yeah.
asshole police beating on people. It's just, yeah, I don't know. The whole way that change is happening now, I don't dislike it. Even though I supported defunding the police before they had a hashtag for it, just because I've never really liked the police all that much. But yeah, what are you guys thinking?
Well, I kind of hit it. I kind of hit what I was going for, which is just that, people can go out and do this stuff as much as they want, but if you're not voting, then, well, I don't know, maybe they just poked a hole in that then if they actually did get some changes in LA just from people rioting. So I guess that shuts me up.
But that's not the right way to do it.
Yeah, but it sets a precedent now.
Yeah.
So people go around and yell and break things and throw a tantrum and then they get their cookie.
Yeah. But I don't think we should
Yeah.
be saying that as, oh, good job, guys.
No, not at
Yeah.
all.
Jones, you're gonna say something?
I was gonna just agree with that. Like I don't think that's the right way to go about it. I mean, it's good. It's good to protest. It's part of the First Amendment. You have your American right to do that. That's great. If you want to talk about something, bring a certain issue or concept to light, but it should still be voted on. I mean, with my own political views, I do think there's too much budget going towards like military and police, and I certainly think there's more areas of opportunity. in other public sectors that can definitely use that money
Mm.
or some of it. um, but yeah, it shouldn't just be like this barbarian approach of like, you know, we're just gonna smash stuff until you listen to us. Like, but again, I'm also torn on that because there have been like other peaceful protests in the past where nothing really happened and those people were just not really listened to. So
Yeah.
I I don't have the solution for this. I don't know what the right way to go about it is. I just don't condone the violence that's going on, but I also don't think it's right to spend so much on, you know, a militarized police at this point.
Yeah. I wonder what the good middle ground would be. Like, because you can't go all out. Let's burn down the city to get this done. But then being completely peaceful also seems to get nothing done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They don't really listen unless you have a gun in your hand.
Yeah.
But maybe one good thing that's come out of this is like the constant walks and the constant like massive gatherings that do become inconvenient for people in the downtown areas and do become inconvenient for people right outside like city halls and police departments, you know. That I think that in itself, when people do protest and go out there, that actually is effective as long as it's consistent and
Yeah.
it happens enough because previously there's been, you know, just some random Facebook event that comes up and it's just inviting people, oh, we're going to march on this day and that's it. We're just going to show people that this is our opinion and we're all going to gather at this one time during this one day and then no one does it again. So a lot of people plan around that. Oh, okay, well, that day I know to avoid the downtown areas. I'm just not going to go there, right?
Mm.
But like once it becomes a constant thing, you see more people doing it. I feel like that has better like marginal returns, I guess.
Mm.
Um, it shouldn't. I still do not think it should get to a point of violence because it sucks. A lot of small shop owners lost a lot recently, but I think it's the consistency in it that would really help, at least with that. But I don't think I think the primary root of this issue is that people only care for a certain amount of time. Their attention spans are so short for certain issues. You know, there's been plenty of hashtags that have come up in the past years on social media about something. Where are they now? They just kind of get buried, you know?
Yeah. That's a good point.
A lot of this stuff just kind of gets forgotten and we don't really have people sticking to the values that they speak out for or against, whatever.
Yeah. It's just whatever's trending in this social justice pool.
Right. So I just think I think there's a big lack of consistency there, and the the idea that people they just think that like it's a one-time thing and then it's done. That's a big issue for me. I don't think that's the right way to go about it either because I know that there has been, I mean, the whole Black Lives Matter thing, that is not a new thing to 2020 at all.
Mm.
This has been around for a while, but you just don't, it just only comes up whenever there's like a new death, which understandable. I mean, sure, bring that to light, bring that, you know, injustice.
And it keeps escalating. It never got to this point before with riots and, protests and walks and things like that. So, I mean, what if it keeps going? What if there is another person that's killed in a year or two and it blows up again, but it just keeps escalating? It keeps getting to a new level. That's just a thought, just a
Yeah.
just an idea. What if this isn't even the last step? we think that this is the one that's going to be the push. But what if it isn't?
Right.
Which is kind of a scary thought. That's just where I was
Yeah,
going.
but there's plenty of movements and, hashtags, if you want to call them that, that really do get buried a lot. I mean, I frequent Reddit a lot, and every once in a while you'll just see this very short reminder. Someone will say like, "Oh, by the way, Flint, Michigan still doesn't have clean water." And it's
Hmm.
sure, it's got everyone's attention for that day on that website,
Mm,
but where else do you really hear about that anymore? Right? That was a big crisis for Michigan.
yeah.
And like nothing really came out of that was, that was always in the public light. Like that's a very big issue there. But again, it's one of those things where people cared for it for a hot minute and they got riled up, but then things just calmed down and they became complacent,
Yeah, I got
right?
buried.
The rest of the country just kind of becomes complacent with certain issues, and it's just like, I'm only going to care about this if it's the new hot topic.
Hmm.
Mm.
So that's my issue with that. It's just people kind of forget and only want to follow the trends.
I was fixing my camera at the moment. It was getting all crazy. But a question to play to channel your inner conspiracy theorist.
Oh God,
This is gonna be a good one.
we're
Do
going
you
deep.
do you think
Sometimes I do.
I sometimes if you pay me I'll think whatever you want. But but like I got a bone for the conspiracy, you know what I'm saying? Do you think if there is a they, some sort of group that wants control for themselves, situations like this, situations like the Rona lockdowns, if you want to control a group of people, a society, Rona didn't work all that well. People got tired of being stuck indoors. They started going out. It wasn't
tried.
like a real danger. People can't really be afraid of a disease they can't see. Do you think it's possible that there was some sort of push by a different force that we
Dude,
don't know to get these riots going, to get to the
yeah,
point where, oh, we need the military to come in here
I do.
and
I
lock it
did.
down?
I only thought it for like 2 days, but I thought like they're just making up something new.
Yeah.
The virus wasn't working. People were starting to become complacent. People had adjusted to this new lifestyle in the virus, in the pandemic setting, and it wasn't working. And so they needed something else. And so this other event was manufactured. But then after a couple of days, I was like, yeah, maybe not.
I don't think so because it didn't work because the military didn't get called in.
Yeah, no.
But like I feel like maybe somewhere there was that glimmer of hope that it would escalate into something that
I mean, I'm sure some other things are being done behind our backs while we're occupied with this. Like, even if it wasn't orchestrated, I'm sure they're using it as an opportunity.
they're
But
walking
it's
back all the Rona stuff while we're all distracted about the riots. Haven't you seen all the CDC stuff and the WHO?
no.
Oh, remember the whole reason why we had to stay home was because we had to worry about asymptomatic people spreading Rona? Turns
Yeah.
out it's almost impossible. It's not likely that asymptomatic people will, for whatever reason, spread Rona. We also had to stay home because Rona could live on surfaces for ages, and you could get it from different. Turns out, oh, we made a mistake. Turns out it's almost impossible for you to get it and spread from surfaces infections.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they, like the next day after that was announced, try to retract that
Yeah,
and
like
say,
back.
actually, yeah,
That's the thing, though. They're constantly. They don't really. I don't understand how you could believe anything they say because they're constantly saying it's the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. We need masks. We don't need masks. Like I just don't. I don't buy it really. Like there's too much back and forth. I get that it's a new disease, but it's to the point where it's like suspiciously weird and the timing of it where they suddenly come out with this stuff is weird to me.
I don't know if there's anything really sinister behind them going back and forth like that. I mean, this is like a novel virus, so a lot of information is still being processed and learned. Um, I mean, is there an opportunity for higher powers and the government to put in some controls in place? Yes. With all this going on, with the mix of these two things going on, sure. I don't doubt that. There's definitely it's kind of like what you mentioned at some point, E-Dog, where there's going to be these controls that are put in, and then once everything's kind of fine, they're not just going to easily take it back and be like,
Yeah.
all right, here's this kind of freedom again or whatever. Like this is a great case for, I mean, society in general to be studied and see how well they perform, or it performs. But specifically with the WHO and CDC, I don't know. I just think they're just kind of learning stuff, and a lot of it does have to do with like public reaction. So if they say like, oh, you know what, it's not so bad, but then there was a public reaction of like people going out and then just being like not cautious at all and just saying, oh, we could do whatever we want.
Yeah.
They probably underestimated how easily influenced the public could be.
Hmm.
So
I think-
maybe that's what's that?
Sorry, I think the issue is turnaround of information. They're trying to give people information too fast, and that's why we keep getting them going back on. Well, we said it could live on surfaces, but it turns out we figured this out. Instead of like stop trying to tell people things every other day. Stop trying to give new information every other day. Why don't you take the time to figure out what's going on? Why don't you study this and then tell people in 4 weeks or a month? Why do we? So that's one problem. We keep having this turnaround of lab studies, and it's not definitive information, and people are treating it as if it's definitive. And so then when they go back on it, then people bug out and are like, well, why did you tell us it was this if it was actually this other thing? And it's because of this I don't know, the need for immediate information. It's not really necessity.
They also don't seem to understand how quick information spreads now. Like they seem to think that they put it out, oh, a few people will read it, but then the whole world reads it in a matter of hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets out of control.
That's the issue. I think a lot of people have a strong reaction to it. So I just have a feeling specifically with those two organizations that they're just learning a lot, and the way they're handling it, yeah, it's not the best. I'm I don't agree with how they've handled that, but just how quickly people react to that kind of stuff and handle that information, it's just not very smart, because most of the people aren't very, like, I don't know, they're just not, they don't process that very well. So and then that causes even more freakouts and even more conspiracies.
Yeah, the average person is an idiot. That's why we had toilet paper shortages and meat was sold out and stuff. Like the average person the average person is not a critical thinker.
Yeah, and I just think they're either, well, I don't know if you want to call it overestimating or underestimating them, but like it's just they don't know how to process that information in a
I guess
proper way.
That would sort of feed into my conspiracy that it's calculated. Or if you do have they would have to know that the average person isn't a critical thinker, that they're gonna freak out. Like if there is a mastermind, well then yeah, you're gonna put out something and you're gonna freak people out because that's what they're gonna do.
I think they wanted to see how many people will self-isolate and how many people need to be forced.
Yeah. And for how long, I guess.
Yeah. How long can we push this? How long can they take it? How long before they snap?
Yeah. Because
I mean, no matter. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the reason why I get like a conspiracy feeling from it I guess one reason is because of the fact that they still wanted people to believe that it was a world ender, even after it was like pretty clear that it's something to worry about, but it's not going to kill all of us. And they're still trying to push like the idea that you got to stay home. You can't come in here without this or that. And there's just too much push to only have one way of thinking about it. Like it's not even so much what you were supposed to think. Like if you don't want to go to a place because you don't have a mask, that's I guess fine. But just the fact that they didn't want people having any other idea about it. Of it's like you have to think that the world is gonna end, and if you don't, well then we're gonna remove your videos or hide shadow ban you, something like that.
Yeah,
There's-
if
Yeah.
you don't uphold the status quo,
Yeah.
or you're challenging it, you're a threat to it. You're a threat to whatever order it is that they're trying to, order that they're trying to impose.
And my thing was like, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it is just people getting scared. They were trying to be precautionary for something that they thought was serious. But hell, you should at least question it a little bit. Like it's not like there's never been a government that took advantage of an emergency to take power from a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Hitler did it. He started a fire, got emergency powers. Nero did it, burned down Rome. Like there's examples to where I think it's justified to be suspicious of
Palpatine
things
did it.
like this. Palpatine did it. There's situations where I think you
Ra's al
shouldn't
Ghul
just
did
be like toss it out the door just
burn down
because.
Wayne Manor.
Did he?
Yeah. In Batman Begins.
Was that? I thought Bruce Wayne burned down his. Man, I gotta rewatch that movie. Ra's al Ghul was in the first one. I thought that was the second one.
No, that was Batman Begins. That was the first movie. Remember, he said, "You burned down my home and left me for dead. I'm gonna do the same to you."
What was the second one about then?
That was the
Oh,
Dark Knight.
That was Joker, right? Okay.
Joker.
All right, I'm all back.
The
I'm all
third
back.
one had a ghost of Ra's al Ghul, but it was Raz's daughter that was now infiltrating Bruce's life.
With the League of Shadows.
Hmm.
Well, now I'm all
But
caught
anyway.
up on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not good at keeping track of trilogies and what happened
come-
and where.
But either way, going back to your topic, I mean, emergency powers are definitely a slippery slope. I do think that a lot of larger entities can definitely benefit from that, and they certainly will not want to have those emergency powers revoked.
Yeah. I was suspicious of it, like slightly worried. I didn't get like overly conspiracy theorist until I started seeing I think I told you guys about it last time. That video where the cops show up at someone's house saying, "Hey, we heard reports that you were seeing your neighbors. That you went over to see your neighbors." Like someone snitched them out that they went to see their neighbors, and the cops were there to basically, I don't know, enforce some kind of lockdown stuff. And they're like, "We're gonna need your names and your license numbers because we heard that your kids were playing with their neighbors." And it's like when you see stuff like that, it's kind of creepy to see that happening in America.
Was one of the first places to allow officers to actually, like, I don't know if they would freaking detain them because obviously the virus, it's not like they want them in the county jail. But you would get busted for leaving your home when this first started at like the last week of March, I think. Like San Francisco, some other places in California, it was punishable.
Yeah.
To be out of your home. And that's insane.
Yeah. I
There's
get
no
wanting to be safe, but that seems more dangerous in the long run.
Yes, because there is no law against it, and then you are letting law enforcement officers function under a policy that does not exist. It's essentially hearsay. And you could be charged with a misdemeanor if you were not practicing safe social distancing and leaving your home.
Yeah.
And that's absurd. What crime did you commit? How could you be charged with a misdemeanor for something that is not even stated as unlawful?
Yeah.
And that was where I started kind of I don't know, just being actually alarmed by all of this. I was still pretty pessimistic when once my job was, closed down and everything, I was still just like, whatever, people are overreacting, this is nuts. But then once stuff started getting once I saw the things in San Francisco and I saw how people were being policed and how there were these new things being enforced, and then where I don't know, that's where I kind of thought, all right, now we're headed toward V for Vendetta. Now we're headed toward curfews. Now we're headed toward people asking you where you're going and where you're coming from, overstepping boundaries, government overreach.
All because we wanted to feel safer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And in the name of safety, you relinquish these freedoms.
Jonesy, you're crockpotting again. Give me those thoughts.
I ain't crockpotting.
You're-
I've spoken my words.
What are you making chili over there? What
Yeah.
got in the crock pot, Jones?
Ideas, thoughts, a little sprinkling of passion.
No, I said my piece.
Yeah. No, I wasn't sure if you had another.
No,
I
Shifted into something.
Thankfully, though, it did not get to V for Vendetta levels. Like, people, they eased up, and we don't have crazy. I mean, we had a curfew because of the riots, but we don't have an existing prolonged and forced curfew. So that's.
Well, we'll
But
see.
if you-
We'll see what sticks around. Like maybe they won't let you into stores if you don't have something.
That's true.
Well, I was gonna say with well, I mean, I guess with both Rona and the protests, if you really want to entertain the conspiracy idea, next time something big happens, whether it's a second wave or the second wave that's supposedly coming, and perhaps a new event that strikes anger in a lot of people and a new protest. I mean, what precedents have already been set,
Yeah.
especially for something so recent. A lot of larger groups already know, okay, this is what we need to implement. This is how we know how to control it, and it'll just become easier and easier each time to put those controls in place. So that's my little nugget. If you wanted to entertain that conspiracy.
No, I was thinking that when it started, I think it's just a test. They're getting better and better at it. And we're just, because like, I feel it's like a thing in America more so than other places. But people just like are desperate for the like illusion of safety. They'll give up whatever just to feel a little bit safer, even if they're not actually any safer.
Right.
So I feel like in America, it's just so much more dangerous maybe than in other places for people to just give up their freedoms and for bad things to happen.
I don't think people will continue, though. I don't think people will continue to give up freedoms. People are really getting sick of it. If there is a second wave in the fall, which I think there may be, I don't know. Who really knows?
We just keep counting, and then there'll never be a second wave because we'll just keep counting from the first one.
I don't think people are going to comply. If they do another, if they try to implement another quarantine, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think people are done.
People are so pissed about the first one, businesses failing from the first one, and then getting trashed from the riots. Business owners themselves are not going to tolerate another closure. People are going to flip.
Yeah, second wave is going to be like every man for himself at that point.
Yeah, fuck the toilet paper, dude. It's going to be out of control.
But then it depends. If there is a second wave and it comes back like the Spanish flu where it kills a huge amount more, then I could see people going crazy and then it's going to be wild to see what happens. But I feel like just based on what's happening now, where it's not as deadly as we thought it was, I feel like it's just going to be a second wave that people don't really worry about. It's just going to happen. People are going to probably be dying from the Rona, but there's not going to be a lockdown. There's not going to be store shelves cleared out.
Mhm.
I think it's going to be the same sort of reaction we had with swine flu and SARS and all that, where there's a moment of freak out, but then when it comes back the next year, it's sort of just there's still
Yeah.
SARS around. There's still swine flu. It's going to be
Ebola.
used by like people that don't want to do anything to just be like, oh, we freaked out about that last one and nothing happened. And then it'll screw us when there actually is a plague level disease that's going to kill all of us. And people are like, yeah, what about Rona? And then half of us die.
Yeah, actually, that's what my parents were saying. My parents were saying that this is like a huge boy who cried wolf scenario.
Yeah.
And they were saying that like if there's a bigger issue, we're gonna be screwed because my parents were saying if there is a resurgence in the fall and it is like the Spanish flu where it is much more deadly.
Yeah.
My parents were saying like people are not going to listen, they're not
Yep.
going to quarantine, and that's where all of the death is gonna that's where the death toll is gonna skyrocket because we pulled this in the spring already. We had this boy who cried wolf scenario.
Yeah.
And now people, by the time it got to the real thing, people are going to blow it off. And that's where we're going to see a way worse impact.
Yeah. That would be scary if that does happen. Yeah, that would be like what I was asking about, like a conflict. Like, I don't know what we would do in that situation. Because we were all going crazy saying, oh, there's no food. There's food. Like,
Yeah.
that would be a situation where there's really no food. It's not about getting in line. It's like, you got to go rob your neighbor for a can of beans or something. That would be insane to live through. If you
I
lived
can
through it.
only imagine too what sort of conspiracies would come out of that this time. Like, why is it deadlier this time? You know,
Yeah,
if it gets to that point, people that, I mean, if it gets more widespread, then there is going to be more deaths. I mean, that's just statistics in general right now. There's a certain percentage of people that die from the ones that are infected, right? But if there's a higher infection count, there's going to be a higher death count. People are going to be questioning that, and then there's going to be some crazy thoughts floating around, and it's going to turn political, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be a mess.
Yeah, I should probably clarify. I'm not saying Rona is fake. Like, I think
Right.
Rona is an issue. It's just
Oh,
not
yeah, these are
closed down
like-
the world issue. I'm still saying, like, people like my nana and my dad, at-risk people, groups, older people, should be careful of that stuff. I'm just saying I should be allowed to go wherever the hell I want to go, and that should be my choice. Because I'm 27, I don't have any underlying diseases. I'll most likely be fine even if I get Rona, if I haven't already had it. But just so I don't get canceled. Rona's real.
The scary thing to me still is just that uncertainty of the asymptomatic condition, you know, because
Mm.
if you do have it and you are passing it along, I mean, that's, you know, if that's how it works, then that's pretty
Yeah.
devastating. That's a scary thought for me.
I think that people are wasting so much time worrying
Being
about
afraid.
how the virus functions. People get the flu every year. That's it. It's going to pass through people no matter what. No matter what. You don't know who's going to get it. You don't know who's not. Some people, it's going to be like strep. Some people are carriers. Some people don't really get sick, but they carry it and whatever. I don't understand like the mania behind trying to dissect this thing and figure out how it functions. Like, what's that gonna do for you? You're gonna do the same shit no matter what.
Yeah, I think my reaction to all this is kind of, what is it, biased maybe, based on my experience with thinking that I was dying for 5 years, where I just really
Uh,
don't care about this. Like, you could die at any point. Like, why am I gonna waste months of my life hiding at home unless I truly have to? If I have some disease that
yeah,
this Rona could kill me, but hell, I could die at any point. I'm not gonna die in my house afraid of some disease. I'm just gonna take my chances. I feel like that should be my choice, not some government telling me I have to stay home, basically.
but wouldn't you be putting other people at risk?
But those people should be allowed to go out. And if they accept that risk, well, then that's on them.
Okay.
Like, my whole thing is like, we should keep the people that are at risk separate. We should put extra precautions to keep those people safe.
Yeah.
And then people say, oh, that's not logistical. But man, we closed down the whole damn world. You wouldn't think that's logistical. How can we not separate people that are at risk? There's got to be some way to do it.
Yeah.
So,
And now with them saying that asymptomatic people can't even pass it on,
yeah.
so it turns out we could have had like all of these people still working, going to work without risk of passing it on to other people, blah blah blah.
And really, without Rona, when you go out, you're taking a risk. There's always a risk of something. It's like,
There
you're
is.
never
You
risk
could
free.
be next to someone at the bank who has MRSA.
Yeah.
You have no idea. You have no idea at all.
It's just weird how people react to specific things. Like, certain things we'll freak out about. Other things, it's like, well, that's part of life. That's the way we live.
Because I blame the media.
Fox News.
I blame the media blamers.
What's that from? Is that Simpsons?
I don't know. Something we used to say a while back.
I blame the media blamers. Yeah.
It sounds like something from The Simpsons or Futurama. It's got a little Matt Groening sound to it.
But no, I would, but I always sort of blame the media. So, yeah, kind of sounds like overplayed.
I know people who watch the news like 4 hours a day, and that's just disturbing. Like, why are you doing that to yourself? You're bugging out. You're freaking yourself out. You're getting worked up over this. Like, people who were doing this like in April, like when this was at its height, and people were really freaking out. You know, it was the second week of the quarantine or whatever the hell it was. And
Yeah.
I don't watch TV. I don't watch news. Like, I'll read one or two things online, and that's it. I do not keep up because it's just fear-mongering bullshit. It's just like freaking people out. I guess people are choosing to get worked up over it and watch way too much of it and consume too much, but you can step away whenever you want.
I watch the news and I'll read articles, but I don't base my reaction on what I see in the news. Like, I'll base my reaction on things that have happened, like actual events,
Yeah.
things that I have examples of.
Mhm.
But Jones, I don't know if you wanted to say something. I was kind of gonna shift gears a little bit.
I've said my piece.
I was gonna say it is interesting because it's related to media, where it was brought up on one of the Rogan podcasts, where it's interesting that the media was all for freaking people out, saying why you should be afraid of the coronavirus, what you shouldn't do, things you can't do. But there was really no push for like, hey, maybe we should stop being obese. That really helps stop the fatality of Rona. Maybe we should do some more exercise, eat better. It was all focused on just things to either scare you or tell you what you can't do. So I think it sounds overplayed to be like the media, but I think it is the media.
Because that's like negative reinforcement. It's not positive reinforcement, right?
Mm.
It's giving you something to worry about. It's not giving you a solution or something that could be helpful. It's giving you a thought that, it can be a burden or might freak you out, whatever, however you want to phrase it.
Yeah. Jonesy?
Just talking about overplaying things, right? I mean, no, is that is that I
Is
I,
that
I
what we're
kind of
doing right now? Is that what
no, I kind of missed that, but
Jonesy zoned out.
kind of did for a bit. But is that really what you're talking about?
No. We were talking about how the media focuses on basically fear mongering and not really on ways that we can improve the situation.
Oh yeah, because that's just what's hot. That's what gets ratings. Like that's
It's what the
Yeah,
people
people
want.
change the channel.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, it's always been that way. I mean, it's never been really helpful to just soak everything in from the news. I think the news is good to maybe get some sort of context to stay informed to a certain degree, but
Yeah.
it's not going to be beneficial to rely and, suddenly know what you should be doing just because of what someone on TV is saying.
Mm.
I don't know, but I guess that that could also denounce a lot of like professionals that go on the news and whatnot. But I don't know. It just at some point it just becomes ineffective
It
to
is. It's too much. It's oversaturated.
well yeah, like the
It
the
didn't
the
used to. No, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the main point is just to get these these well just to get attention, right? To get viewers, to get
Yeah.
ratings, right? I mean that's it's still a business at the end of the day, and a business has to be profitable. So yeah, I mean that's as much as I can say there. It
That
has
that
it has to get overplayed.
well, that becomes the issue. It's not about informing people. It's about making a dollar, and that's why
Mm.
we have this. These are all contributing factors to this. I don't know, the oversaturation of information, that being, I don't want to say too informed, but like you shouldn't have. I don't want to say you shouldn't have access to it, but it shouldn't be there all the time. It's absurd. Like when my parents were kids, the news was on 3 times a day. It was on in the morning, in the evening, and then they replayed it at night. It was 3 times a day. That was it. And then your newscaster would sign off. Do you know what signing off was? TV ended for the night. They played national anthem. They played the national anthem, and then it went to static. And there was nothing on your TV. There was nothing being broadcast until the morning. You could wake up in the morning, and then TV shows were being played and put on again, and the news was on. That was it. There was like 6 channels, and they had these news stories, and you got the information, and that was it. But now it's non-stop, 24-hour news every single day from multiple sources that all have their own bias and companies that fund them, essentially.
Yeah, if there was a way to have news and have it not be biased, I think you could manage like a 24-hour news cycle.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to like just always drift off into some left or right, some kind of biased. I wish there was a way to just have news, like just news.
Have you
Like
ever
this
have you
happened.
ever watched the TV show The Newsroom? It was an HBO show.
No.
No.
Oh, it was a great show. That's what it was about. It was about a cable news network where the anchor decided, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to completely just can everything you hand me, and we're going to have like completely unbiased news. What the hell is that called? Something partisan. I can't think of the word.
Bipartisan?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, what happens if you're not reporting on Jodi Arias? Nobody gave a shit about that. They just played it over and over and over because she was good looking, right? You know,
Yeah.
right? So that's the kind of stuff. The show is cool because it uses real news stories. They make it take place like in the early 2000s, 2010, blah, blah. They use real news stories, but they do like an alternative history to it. So they show this is how this news network would have covered that story instead of what we got in real life. And it's interesting because it shows what you get when you don't have an angle, when your news service does not have a bias. They're not right-leaning, they're not left-leaning, they're not just getting behind certain candidates. They actually hold candidates responsible. They actually ask them serious questions. You know, like the debates that we have now are a fucking joke.
Yeah.
It's a cool show. It's worth checking out.
If I ever get HBO, no, I'm boycotting HBO.
Stream it. Just stream it. Buy the Breeze.
I heard there's websites where you could watch it, allegedly. I don't know if I'd ever go to those websites, but
Oh, wow. That's cool.
I'm sure there's places where you could stream stuff.
The internet's
But-
a wild.
But on that note, we've been here for well over 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
Past Jonesy's bedtime. He's got work in the morning.
Starting to
Tired to
get
go.
that moon face.
Yeah, he's got moon face. But I think we did
Is this,
well. We covered a lot of stuff.
No, yeah, this was pretty sweet. Is this a real signing off? Like we're cutting it, or we're gonna say goodbye and then we're actually gonna talk for like 6 more minutes and then be like, all right, later, guys.
We're gonna talk for a little bit after, but
Okay.
for the people at home, any last words from you guys? Jonesy,
Yeah, I'm gonna let Richard take this one today. Well,
Richard,
first,
You got that crock pot going over there.
give the people at home something, Richard, to say farewell.
Thanks for listening to the ramblings and the rant and the crazy conspiracy garbage. Hopefully you got something out of it, or it was a fun little excursion into, our minds.
Jonesy,
so I'm a fan of Jerry Springer. I like what he says, and he likes to say, "Take care of yourselves and each other."
word.
That's what.
That's what's up.
We'll see you guys in episode 2, Return of the Podcast.